Right. This one here in front of me, 632.
So I see a lot of.
And you know, this one. So that was actually right. Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you. There we go. Guys ready? I can call to order the Yreka City Council meeting. Before we get started, we had closed session beforehand and there's no reportable action. All rise and say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Everybody's mic still on? Okay. All righty. Got a good crowd going on here. So we will jump into, we don't have a special presentation by anybody, do we?
No.
Besides what's on the agenda? Okay. Well, then we'll move into public comments. Public comments. Public participation is welcome and invited at all city council meetings. Time is reserved at each regular meeting for those in the audience who wish to address the city council. The city requests that persons addressing the city council refrain from making personal, slanderous, and profane and disruptive remarks. Council members, when recognized by the mayor, may ask questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during the public comment section of this meeting. Under the Brown Act, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. So this is a time for public comments on anything that's not on the agenda. If you do, come to speak to this in front of this podium there and state your name, and we'll limit it to 5 minutes. Do we have any public comments at this point in time? All right. Well, then we'll move on.
Oh, Donna.
Yeah, you have to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Not on the agenda. What she's gonna talk about.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Donna Batchgalupi, and I'm on the Shasta Valley Cemetery Board. I'm a trustee. And since this is the city and Evergreen Cemetery is in the city, we are instituting a new policy for the cemetery as far as things on graves and handling flowers and so forth. And we hope to have that article in the paper soon. And I would like to send it to each of you so you know what it is. We need to spread it to our community and to the public. So that's my public comment. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Oh, and also a reminder, everybody, please to silence their cell phones so we don't get interrupted. Everybody's like, oh, oh. All right. Public comment still?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Michael Beckstrom. I'm the pastor of United Methodist Church here in Yreka. I also oversee the parish, which has 5 churches here in Siskiyou County. And it's a privilege to be here today. It's good to see you again. It's been a long time, many years. I wanted to speak about the homeless building that is on the agenda, I believe, for today. So is it appropriate to speak now?
Well, what it is, you can speak now. I'll allow you to speak now. Did you kind of basically forfeit your time during the discussion? So if you want to do that now, then great. And then
Whatever
you
you think
forfeit
is
that
best.
5 minutes on the discussion item. But generally, we don't do it that way. But if you want to forfeit your time, then that's fine.
Well, I'm already here, so. I just wanted to say this, that I'm excited about our city here. I too came from the Bay Area and I found this lovely Siskiyou County many years ago. And it's an amazing county. We're here for a specific reason. Many years ago, I was in law enforcement, believe it or not, in the Bay Area. It was about the time, I believe it was 1981, that our president at the time pulled back all of the programs that were out there. In fact, there's an acronym for it, but I don't remember what it is. At about that time, I started as a rookie police officer in the cities of El Cerrito and also San Leandro. and I saw the homeless problem take off like never before. Since that time, and I left many, many years ago, this problem has not ceased. It's continuing to grow forward and forward. Even back then, in speaking with officers that had dealt with this, they had never seen such an influx of homelessness and issues since the time that they took away the government programs. As a pastor, we see it very often. We have our tailgaters program that goes out every Sunday, feeding the homeless. We're getting ready to start off with a clothing program as well. We haven't missed a Sunday. We have a wonderful team. I haven't been on board for a year, but they've been doing it all to themselves. And they have seen that also grow in the homeless community. We need to have a homeless shelter. And it needs to be operated properly. Scripturally speaking, it's exactly what we need to do. I'm not going to bore you with that, but I will tell you that we are directed to help the needy, to help them. There are those that have challenges mentally and physically that need help. They're not going to go away. They're here. We need to help them. We have an excellent department for this, behavioral health, that is right on top of it. And as a pastor that has a church that has people that is out there every single week and sees it, it's imperative that we embrace this. In the same token, we have some valid concerns, I think, on both sides. Is there going to be rules and restrictions to this? And there has to be. And there has to be an understanding with the community. But I know that this is a city that is willing to step forward. Currently, from everything I've seen, there's only 2 cities in the United States that have been successful somewhat or very successful with their homeless program. And that's in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I believe in Ohio. And the number one common denominator for the whole thing is housing. There it is. I believe that we're right on the cusp of this. We can step out as leaders in our community with this and really do something that will meet the needs of everybody. We've all seen those TV shows where the people are standing out there with the signs and collecting money, and then they turn around, they get in the BMW and they drive off.
Mm-hmm.
That's not everybody. There are those that have genuine needs and they need the help, and they need us as leaders in the community to help them. So I want to thank you for the opportunity of speaking to you here today and encourage us to keep praying as I am for our community, for all of you. And we'll end up with an excellent program, and we can set the stage for other people. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, any other public comments at this time? All right, we'll move on to number 10. All matters listed in the consent agenda are considered routine, non-controversial, and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. A, approval, ratification of payments issued from July 25th, 2022 through August 7th, 2022. B, approval of minutes of the regular meeting held on August 2nd, 2022. C, continuation of urgency in ordinance number 864 fireworks. D, continuation of urgency resolution number 2021-51 remote public meetings. And E, waive full text readings of all ordinance on the agenda. Ordinance shall be introduced and adopted by title only. Here's the wishes of the council. Any questions first by the council, and then I'll open up for the public on that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull the minutes if I could for one correction.
For a correction.
Mhm.
If that's all is there any other questions by that? Is it okay if the council, if we just have that correct and then we can just do it as
Sure,
one?
it's really simple. It's on page 46. And it's under recommended county council action. It's regarding Chris Taylor's kids
Uh-huh.
event. And it says on here, the special event known as the Lids Block Party.
Oh, Liz.
And they just need to change the L to a K because we have lots of little kids, not lots of little lids that are coming. And I apologize for that, Retta, but yeah, I just had to I had a little bit of a laugh over that, but I thought we should probably correct it.
Awesome.
That's my only, and
That's
I
all?
would make a motion to,
Okay, we'll open it up. Is there any other questions or comments before we go on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna open up to the audience. Is there any questions on the consent agenda from anybody from the audience or public period? Okay, we'll close it. Now we'll open it back up to the council. What is the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve, with the one change, the L to a K. for
Okay.
kids.
Debbie Baird, all second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will do roll call. Joan Smith Freeman,
Aye.
Paul McCoy,
Aye.
Corey Middleton. Aye. Debbie Baird.
Aye.
And I, Dwayne King. Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to number 11. Will be opened up for public hearing on this, so if you want to, who wants to start off on this one? Mr. Jason, live there?
Yeah, this is a combination of the finance director and planning director, so I think
Okay. So it is a title, adopting an updated comprehensive fee schedule. And we'll have them momentarily.
I would also possibly make the recommendation, but just glancing at the audience that you may take on item 12 now.
Okay. We can do that if that's okay with the council. Do you guys want to move to number 12 first?
Sure.
Sure. Is that okay, Joan? Okay, well then we'll move on to number 12 and come back to number 11. 12 new business, and it's actually labeled 12B, which I don't know what happened to A, but we'll go to 12, we'll go to 12B. This is approving a letter of support for the county housing shelter, and Jason's gonna start this one off.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of Yreka City Council. This is Jason Ledbetter, your city manager. So we are here tonight. We will have a presentation from the county on the proposed grant that's on the table for them. We are here tonight to take a look at a letter of support for a county housing shelter. I am recommending a motion to approve the letter of support for a county housing shelter and authorizing the mayor to speak on behalf of the city council at the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors meeting in support of a shelter facility. We are not aware at the moment when that meeting may take place. I think we'll get more information tonight from the members of the county that are here. As you are aware, the Continuum of Care Advisory Board here locally is chaired by the mayor, Mr. Dwayne Keig. I myself am constantly engaged with Dr. Sarah Collard, Madeline Bryan, and Tara Ames. Is that correct? Tara, thank you. To seek solutions. So we're looking for solutions to the issue of the unhoused, pretty much epidemic here that's happening on the western states. And there's been lots of talk. There's been the PIT, the point in time count that happens. There's been different funding streams. But throughout the process, whether at that meeting or in side meetings discussing different funding streams, it has always been my impression that the council does support, in fact, a shelter within the community for the city of Yreka. We are very aware that we are the county seat. And so as homeless individuals possibly get in trouble or get arrested in other parts of the county, such as Tule Lake, or are seeking services that are provided by the county in the city of Yreka, we ultimately end up seeing the majority of the unhoused folks in Siskiyou County congregating in Yreka currently, obviously, with no shelter in place at the moment. And we have seen across the street from behavioral health in the city of Yreka, a number of individuals taking up camping. The city's response to that so far has been to work with the county to seek solutions and then also to pass the critical infrastructure ordinance to keep the community safe. And so without further ado, we will have a presentation from Miss Tara Ames with Siskiyou County.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. So my name is Tara and I'm the project coordinator for Siskiyou County Behavioral Health. And before I start my presentation, I wanted to share my qualifications with those of you who don't know me. I first started community college when I was homeless, and I took every opportunity I had to write my college papers about the experience of homelessness. I was accepted into the Chico State Bachelor's Program for social work, and I did my honors project on dual diagnosis treatment for substance use disorders and mental health disorders. I was accepted into a competitive master's degree program for social work, where I interned with homeless youth and completed my thesis project on homeless housing. While I was going to school, I helped start the Safe Space Winter Shelter in Chico, which is a low barrier homeless shelter that started housing only a few people per night and grew to safely housing between 80 and 90 people every night. I worked as the shelter lead for about 4 years until I moved to Siskiyou County for the job that I currently have. Part of my responsibilities in my job are to attend evidence-based symposiums to learn the best practices for providing housing, mental health treatment, substance use treatment, and treating individuals with criminogenic traits. I think that it's clear to all of us that the homeless encampments are problematic, which is why I pursued the funding for Project Basecamp. I know that I don't have enough time to answer everyone's questions or concerns, but I'm hoping to give you all the basic understanding of the need and the project overview. Do we have the presentation?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, you can go to the next slide, please. So the grant opportunity that we have is through the Board of State and Community Corrections, Proposition 47 funding, which is to provide treatment and housing for individuals who have been arrested, charged with, or convicted of a criminal offense, and they have a history of mental health and or substance use disorders. It's Prop 47 is the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. So they took money from not incarcerating non-serious or non-violent crimes and putting that funding into investments to support school programs, victim services, and mental health and drug treatment. So the Board of State and Community Corrections is the ones providing the funding for the mental health and drug treatment portions of that. The grant funding for Project Basecamp, we asked for 2 million and 100. I'm nervous and numbers are not looking great right now. $2,148,353 from the grant. And then we're going to be leveraging some other funds, such as Medi-Cal billing, Mental Health Services Act, and some other funding for about right under $500,000. The grant period is from this September through June 1st of 2020. Thank you. And we do have additional funds available through other grants to house non-Prop 47 target population individuals, so long as we have beds open in there. And next slide, please. So why do we need a shelter? And the county completes a 10-year plan to end homelessness, and we've identified the need for a shelter in that plan. We have a severe lack of affordable housing, and that continues to go down while the housing prices are going up. And Siskiyou County residents are almost 3 times more likely to have a mental health and or substance use disorder as compared to other Californians. And that's even more so when we're looking at the homeless population. The resources that we do have in Siskiyou County are extremely limited and stretched to their max, or they don't exist at all. And then finally, we have the pickle of the Martin v. Boise decision, which ensures that people experiencing homelessness will not be cited for or arrested for sleeping outdoors when no shelters are available. But at the same time, it completely hobbles our law enforcement. Next slide, please. So our community solution is to implement a 32-bed low barrier homeless shelter that would be year round for justice involved individuals within the Prop 47 target population. We want to provide on-site day services, referrals to and from other agencies, and on-site mental health and substance use assessments to get people engaged in treatment. We also want to pair that with high barrier shelters and transitional housing for a continuum of housing assistance in our community. Next slide, please. So the continuum of housing care, this is only a small fraction of what that is, but I just wanted to give you the overview of why it's important. So when individuals are homeless, they have no supports. They have a high probability of having untreated mental health or substance use disorders. It's near impossible for them to be employed. And if they do become employed, they quickly become unemployed. And they're likely to commit crimes just to meet their basic needs. And they're likely to overuse emergency services such as law enforcement, fire, ambulance, and the emergency department. When we introduce low barrier shelters into the continuum, staff are able to develop relationships with individuals experiencing homelessness, which makes it easier for them to access mental health and substance use treatment, to access employment and vocational training. And typically high crime individuals rarely use shelters. That means that the individuals that are still out on the street are the ones that the police officers can actually deal with at that point, because they're the ones out creating crime in our community. And shelters, when we introduce the low barrier shelters, that's where we start seeing the reduction in the overuse of emergency services. The next kind of spectrum up from that is the high barrier shelter. So
Can I ask a question? What's a low barrier shelter?
I'm going to get to that on the next slide. I will explain that for you. A high barrier shelter has a lot of requirements to entry, to get into the shelter. Often those barriers are from program or funding specific criteria, and higher barrier shelters are more appropriate for such as families or individuals that are newly in recovery, that being around other users is dangerous to them. And high barrier shelters typically serve what we call higher functioning people who are going to experience homelessness for a shorter amount of time and be in the shelters for a shorter amount of time. What we want to do in low barrier shelters is get individuals to the point where they can be in a higher, higher functioning, so that they can exit homelessness. And then once individuals are housed, Siskiyou County is dedicated to using housing first practices to get people into housing, but they begin to have the ability to gain a rental history, which is really important. Most people won't rent to somebody without a rental history if they're an adult. And it's easier to maintain school or employment obligations. And it's the best environment to have your basic needs met when you're housed. And individuals that are housed are the least likely to overuse the emergency services. Next slide. What is a low barrier shelter?
Good question.
So low barrier means utilizing best practices to reduce barriers to entry. And that could be barriers to entry into programs, into services, into the shelter. It's understanding that people have pets, people have a lot of belongings, people have partners, people have mental health and substance use challenges. And it's saying, it's okay, we know that you come with that, and we're going to help you anyway. We do use a housing first approach, which means that people don't have to drug test to come in. They don't have to show proof of who they are. We just are going to accept them and begin to provide services to them and develop those relationships. And we want to create a service enriched shelter, which means that it's a temporary living facility. So it's not permanent, it's only temporary, but we're focused on moving people into that permanent housing and connecting them to resources. Low barrier shelters are come as you are, not do as you please. Next slide, please. So there's some common misconceptions on what a low barrier shelter is and is not. So it is absolutely not a place that you can go to use drugs, alcohol, or other substances, including marijuana, in the shelter. What we do is we check everybody's belongings when they come into the shelter. Pockets are checked, you gotta turn them inside out. You have to relinquish your belongings besides your personal hygiene products, maybe your cell phone charger, a book to read, whatever you're working on that night. There's certain things that are allowed into a shelter and many things that are not allowed into the shelter, but we store everybody's belongings safely for them and give them back to them in the morning. It is not permanent housing. It's not a place for families or children. If those individuals come into the shelter, they're going to be diverted into more appropriate housing. And it's not unsupervised. Low barrier shelters have staff that is awake the entire time to watch out for everybody. We have a huge funding for security cameras throughout the building to make sure that it's a safe environment. And it's not an incentive for out-of-county residents such as travelers. That's not the primary purpose of a low barrier shelter. The primary purpose is to serve the individuals that are currently homeless in Siskiyou County and have been here for a while. So, but a low barrier shelter is a place to sleep safely and be protected by the environment, maybe other people that are unsafe for you to be around, a place to engage in treatment, school, or employment, a place, a navigation center between all of the county agencies and organizations. It doesn't matter who it's from, we can connect people to them. And it's a day treatment center. We want to have on-site services for people that are engaged in treatment, where if they are engaged, they're happy to stay there all day. So they don't have to go somewhere else. That's another incentive for people to get engaged in treatment, where they don't have to leave constantly with their belongings and then come back later. It's going to be a safe place to shower and a place to build trust and relationships with service providers to end episodes of homelessness. Next slide. So for referrals for the program, I've heard a lot of questions about where these referrals are going to come from. They can really come from anywhere, but we're going to have special policies for such as law enforcement, probation, parole, the jail, for that if somebody's being released in the middle of the night, we want them to be able to get transported directly to the shelter and come straight in so long as we have beds open. We have a number of community resources that are looking forward to having a place to refer people to. And this list is just an example of some of the ones that we have. It is not limited to just those ones. And self-referrals and walk-ins are normally the number one way that people access a low barrier shelter. And all guests that come into the shelter will be entered into the homeless management information system and coordinated entry process, so that when we do have the Siskiyou Crossroads opening, we can get them connected into housing, permanent supportive housing, as soon as it becomes available. Next slide.
Rebecca Laughlin.
Joined the meeting.
Hi, Rebecca. Community collaboration. This grant program did not come from behavioral health just deciding that we need a shelter and that we need to put somebody in, that we need to make this. This came from multiple agencies, our NorCal Homeless Continuum of Care and the Advisory Board, the Prop 47 Local Advisory Committee, our Cultural Competency Committee, our Mental Health Services Act. They do surveys every year. And our Diversion Stakeholder Group, that includes a lot of the court personnel. We have almost every agency that we are involved with. I can't think of one that has said you shouldn't do this. It is something that all of the agencies know that we need, and we have the support from all of them, which means that when we do develop the program, we're going to have those supports of, having on-site services, having, solid referral processes, having solid transportation, of understanding, better communication with the jail when somebody's being released, so that they're not languishing out in the street on a cold winter night. So this program came from all of these agencies, and behavioral health is the one managing it, primarily because I was the one willing to write the grant. But it's not just one of us, it's all of us that want this program. And I think that was my last slide. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tara. That's awesome.
So if you don't mind, I have a public comment email that was requested to be read, and I'd like to read that now before the people line up possibly to speak. So this is from Jan Osborne. And so she says, I request that this email be read during the public comments period of the August 16, 2022 Yreka City Council meeting. Location, location, location. Where would the proposed project base camp be located? Until the public has the information, no letter of support should be sent to the Board of Supervisors. Yesterday, I spoke to the city manager, District 4 Supervisor Nancy Ogren, and Tara Ames at Behavioral Health. None of them were at liberty to identify the location. They did tell me the building being considered was not in a residential area. 2 voice messages I left for Mayor Kaag have not been returned. Until the public is fully informed about the project, I urge the council to postpone action on the letter of support for Project Base Camp. Respectfully, Jan Osborne, Yreka, California.
I want to add to that. I did speak with Jan today, so and cleared up a lot of her questions on some of the other issues with that regarding some of the other issues. So yes, she was made them very clear. So she was very pleased to hear from me on that situation. Yes, absolutely.
So we would absolutely love to share where the location is. I, for one, am excited about it, but like Jason said, it is in a commercial area. It is not next to any homes or any schools. We believe that it's a very secure location. The reason that we're not sharing the location yet is because we are waiting for the Board of State and Community Corrections to give us the resolution that we need to send to the Board of Supervisors before we can enter into a contract with that. We wouldn't want anything, negative to happen to that building owner until we have that lease in place. So that it's us, not on them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would just need clarification on that, because everybody I'm sure wants to know the location of that. So once we get to that point, we'll absolutely be able to let everybody know on that aspect. Right now, this is just, this is a letter going to the county supervisors saying that we are in support, if the council agrees, that we are in support of a shelter. I'm gonna add, to that, we've been working on this quite a while now, for about almost 6 years now. We've been working, the Siskiyou Homelessness Coalition started off with, and addressing this issue. There's a number of pieces that go into this puzzle. It's a big puzzle. People look at it as a simple thing. Oh, let's just get rid of the homeless, kick them out. It's not that simple. You're just kicking, if you kick the homeless individuals out, you're just kicking them to another location, to another problem, another area. That's all you're doing. So one of the things that Tara pointed out is that this facility, there'll actually be other agencies there collaborating with them to be able to get the services. It's what they call a navigation center. Navigation centers are opening up across the United States on all these. And what the main thing with navigation centers is to hook these individuals up with the resources that they need. If they need drug or alcohol rehab programs, mental illness they're going through. So there's a number of different programs that these individuals can get hooked up with, and it's vital to their recovery and to long-term bringing back into society. There's a number of success stories that we can go through that they have with the Rogue Retreat up in Medford. We've seen it. We went up there and visited it, and it's amazing what they some of the stories that
Several times we've been up,
yeah.
not just once.
And it's amazing, some of the success stories, individuals, and it's a progressive thing too on their, what they're doing up there at the Rogue Retreat. It's a starting off with, they have the urban campsite and they have the homeless shelter. They have all these different pieces of the puzzle that gets these individuals back onto recovery and being productive citizens if allowed. What the Tara's offering and showing us is this is one piece of the puzzle. There's going to be other pieces of the puzzle that's going to be introduced later as we get to those points in life. But we need these pieces to come together if we want to see homelessness out of our area, or help to be out of our area. Then we have to start putting these pieces together. If I know I get calls, and I'm sure everybody else does here from the council, numerous calls on, well, why aren't we doing anything to get them out of the parks? Why are they in the greenway? Why are this? These questions. Well, this is going to help with that situation. And another big question that I'm sure we get is, well, if we build a homeless shelter, is it going to invite more? No, actually it doesn't. We went through this with the Rogue Retreat up there, and the individuals that are going to the homeless shelter are actually a lot of them that are seeking help. They want to get better. They want to go to the next level in life and do something productive in their life. So there's a number of different things that it's going to help us as a city as a whole. It's not just one. It's we can get them out of the parks. That's great. We can push them to someplace else. Okay, that's fine. If we push them to someplace else, okay, let's say we haul them to Mount Shasta. Okay, there we go. That's great. That's a great answer. Haul them to Mount Shasta. Well, then what are they going to do? This is a problem that we need to address as a city. We're the county seat. We are a place that we can offer them resources. We have all the resources available right here in Siskiyou County. And we can help these individuals get from one point to another point in their life. And that's what our job is to do, not to push them along to another city. That's some of these individuals, I want to remind everybody, some of these individuals that we're calling homeless are actually people that we grew up with, or people that we know very well. And it's something that I'm passionate about because it's people I know, and it's not fair for them just to push them along to somebody else and have them be somebody else's problem. This is part of our problem. We're a community, more ways than one. And that's part of it. Part of being a community is we pull together and we unify and help fix the problem, not push it along to somebody else. So that's my 2 cents worth on that. I'm sure we have some more people that want to get up and speak, so I'm going to open it up for public comment at this point in time.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. My name is Mike Coley. I'm the Chief Probation Officer here in Siskiyou County. And I stand before you in full support of this program for many reasons, but as you see probably in the literature, you'll notice that 14% they've identified as probation related folk. And this program would be extremely helpful in achieving our goals. The probation department sets out to rehabilitate people and make them productive members in society. The biggest disadvantage we come up against is the barrier to housing. Those that have no housing or not secure or safe housing have a harder time accomplishing the goals of being successful. We have the tools, we have the treatments, we have a lot of great folks doing a lot of good things, but housing is certainly the top need for those folks. And I go to a lot of conferences or things where behavioral health is involved, and I can tell you many times they're lauded for their ingenuity and their thought that they put forward into creating these programs. And knowing that Tara is behind this, I know that it's mastered very well, and I'm fully confident that this program will be beneficial to not only the community here in Yreka, but Siskiyou County as a whole. As you mentioned, folks coming in from other areas that don't have the ability to receive these services. And again, it's that housing thing. If we can put them in a place that's safe and offer them those wraparound services, we can hopefully change who they are, their mind to become more productive members of society. And, so again, I hope you join me in supporting them with their mission of creating the shelter. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Also, I want to add, when we did the point in time count, we had a separate survey. Part of that survey, we asked the individuals, would they be willing to go to a homeless shelter? And we had probably, from the survey we did at the parts I seen, was probably about 75% of the individuals would be willing to go to a homeless shelter. A lot of the individuals expressed that they just wanted someplace safe to stay. They wanted someplace off the streets, someplace safe, a place to take a shower. Just basic essentials for us as people. We look at every day of being able to pop in the shower and get in and out and eat a meal. This is something that they can, we can provide for them, and then hopefully lead them into a path of recovery if that's the case. So when we did, like I said, when we did that point in time count, there was a lot of good information, and these individuals just were seeking something that's basic like that. So it was really neat to see that, and it's hopefully will go to that next level to where we can see some recovery efforts and some people that are productive citizens and people that we can help out.
Mayor Keg, 70% of the, I think it's just under 20 that I interviewed with that extra survey also said that they would use behavioral health, drug services, and other programs if it was available to them. And it is currently, but being homeless, not having a place to go makes it more difficult. So that's another reason why these shelters, low barrier, high barrier, the houses, all of it, the apartments, it's very important. And it all works together.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize too, that it's a spiral effect with some of these individuals. Some of these individuals don't have a social security card. Some of them don't have a driver's license. Being able to have a facility like this, they can be able to have that access and be able to get those things, basic things, to be able to get, other things, to be able to get state funding or any type of help to get them off the streets. They don't have, if you don't have a driver's license, you don't have a social security card, you can't get any of that. So this also helps them with that because it has that facility to where they can get those things. So there's a lot of different avenues that they can benefit from them and take to the next level.
Yes.
And by the way, Paul McCoy is actually part of our COC group too. I just want to add that he is an active member of our COC also. Thank you, Paul.
Well, I'm the one that complains a lot because I worked at Jackson Street for 23 years. I see 6 of my students out there. It was 3 years ago. Now I got 6 students that are homeless and it seems to be climbing. And it just, and I'm, it just kills me that we didn't do a better job. I'm not blaming anybody, but as an educator, I didn't do a better job when I was either principal, vice principal, or 5th grade teacher in helping these kids to be able to cope with things. And we're talking about kids that went on, we're talking about individuals that are bright, musical, and went on full ride scholarships to Cal, the #1 public university in the United States. So it hits across all people.
We've seen a big number of, increase in the last few years. I'm sure everybody can agree with that with homelessness. It's across the nation. There's at least, most areas have experienced at least 10% more homelessness from one year to the other. So it's increasing every year. And unless places start taking action, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. It's not going to go away. It's a problem that's not going to fix itself. It's something that we need to address, and it's a challenge by everybody. And a lot of people, like I said, think that it should just be pushed along to somebody else, but it's time that we stop pushing it along. We start addressing that and fixing the problem in front of us. Like Paul said, a lot of these individuals he knows personally from being a teacher and whatnot. We recently took in a young gal that she was basically homeless, and she had at the time a 6-month-old baby. And so we took her in, and now she's doing great. She's actually working for us now and doing great. She's been with us for, like I said, approximately 6 months, but her battles was the same thing. She was previously going through some addiction problems, but she got through that, straightened out her life as soon as she found out she was pregnant, and started going down a nice path now. And with, hopefully with our help, she can continue that path and move on in life. So it's neat to see that, but that's just one. Bless you. You sneeze like my wife. So hopefully we'll be able to, see some positive changes in her too, and now next generation, because like I said, she has a 1-year-old baby. So that's the thing. That's a change. Yeah. If you want to come up to the podium, absolutely.
Seems like a lot of trouble to go through. The weekly out of Yreka just asked a couple questions. I understand that there's a grant for that, and I was just wondering what happens when that fund runs out. Will Yreka or Siskiyou County have to do that? And also, is there any requirement for people who do the low barrier or incentive for them to get the services that are available? Because it's been my experience that a lot of folks don't want to do that. They like their lifestyle that they're at. So if you could answer those 2 questions. Also, I kind of agree with Jan Osborne, because if you're going to sign a letter of support, but we really don't know where it's going to be, I think that I would feel more comfortable knowing the site before you send in a letter of support, because perhaps maybe some of us won't like where the
Right.
center is going to be. So those are my 3 concerns. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Tara, did you want to elaborate on like the financial part of it, or? whatnot?
And I'll just step in. Jason Ledbetter and Tara can follow me, but as far as the financial liability to the city, there is absolutely none.
Right, so with the BSCC grant funding, when it comes to liability, we are passing through it all to majority of the funds to a community-based organization. So it won't be the county that's running the center. Madeline and I will be on the team of making sure that everything is going exactly the way that we wrote it. but the community-based organization that we partner with will be the one operating it. As long as in regard to sustainability, right now there's so much money out there to try to solve the homelessness problem. I mean, it's so much that we can't even, there's ones that we just have to pass because we don't have the capacity to manage all of them. I'm sure that down the road in 4 years, that will probably still be the case. And everything right now is just increasing when it comes to that. Part of any good grant is coming up with a sustainability plan. And if anybody is interested in being a part of that, you can always join our local advisory committee for the Prop 47 program, where we discuss those types of things and the ongoing supports for the program.
So in conjunction to that too, Tara, isn't it safe to say that once a shelter is opened up, then a lot more stuff becomes available
Oh, yeah.
too, as far as funding?
Yeah.
So it's not, the funding that's available right now, once the shelter gets up and going, then all of a sudden you start seeing other funding because now you qualify for it, where before you didn't qualify because there's no shelter there.
Absolutely. And on top of that, a lot of the funds for this program were for the whole implementation of it. There's a lot of, we have to buy everything for it. Beds, blankets, pillows, pillowcases, every single thing that you can think of had to be purchased. It's not an existing thing. So the next grant that we get can be less money. That's part of the sustainability plan.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you. You have to go up to the speaker. I'm sorry, the microphone.
We manage hundreds, even millions of dollars in housing grants, so we're familiar with this issue. And the moment this starts, even before it started, we already have funding that we are considering using to supplement this shelter. So typically housing funds are one-time grants, but there's very substantial support right now by the state administration for housing services. Last year's fiscal budget was 12 billion for housing services. So the county has seen massive increases in our allocations for housing programs. So I don't anticipate that being an issue.
I want to add that that's Madeline Bryant, and she's the part of the backbone of behavioral health over there. She follows all these grants, and she's amazing. I just wanted to add that.
And I wanted to add a comment not related to finances on the need for a shelter to help connect individuals. I currently run our homeless MDT meeting, and that's a collaboration of service providers who come together to try and brainstorm and collaborate and see which pieces each organization can fill in to assist an individual. And right now, the individuals I work with, they struggle so much if they're on the streets to even figure out how to attend the meeting. So really, it's not a problem if you can get someone from being on the streets into housing, wonderful, but it's so challenging when they don't even have a watch or a phone. I had an individual who I had to send out a request to the resource centers and to other behavioral health staff. And we kind of roamed the streets to remind him to come to the meeting. And then he did show up 2 hours early for the meeting, hoping it was the right day.
Join the meeting.
To, keep track of those appointments even without having that basis of something.
Thank you, Madeline. Oh. Yeah, go ahead and let them on.
We don't know who it is. We
Can't
just have
see
the
it.
phone number.
Hello,
Hello there.
this is Rebecca Laughlin. Hi, I am a member of the community and have also been a direct service provider for the last 5 years under several service umbrellas to include crisis intervention at the hospitals with suicidal and homicidal individuals, and have worked with the significantly mentally impaired. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. I have been able to evaluate individuals in the jail and on the streets and as walk-ins into our agency. I currently am still providing services, but under a different service umbrella, and I can tell you that we are seriously lacking in providing services to the souls that are in this community. And that's the point I want to get across here. Is these are not homeless people. These are not addicts. These are not mentally ill people to the community members. They are a problem. They are a nuisance. And in order to address the active addiction and the vandalism and the behaviors, we have to be able to provide them services to get well. We can't expect them to be able to know what to do when they've been in active addictions, when they've been in mental illness, when they've been, in and out of prison. Like these are people. These are not drug addicts and just people who don't care. These are souls. And one of the hugest barriers we've come across is the community wanting to know about a location. And we have a partially built homeless shelter that we've had that we still can't use. We have nowhere to put these people. This is a common barrier. We have people coming out of jails that have 6 months clean to go right back to the same drug house that they left. And it's a setup to fail when we can embrace them. We have services in this area. People have worked hard to make sure that we have a continuity of care that is guaranteed success. But if we don't have that net, that place to grab them, we lose them. And this is what leads to what we see when people, go out of their way to go down Moonlit Drive across the street from behavioral health, where people are shacked up in tents. We have elderly people in wheelchairs sleeping on the dirt. They have no access to fresh water. They have a porta potty. They can't even take a shower. Imagine those conditions for your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, when you want to come up against what's the location. Obviously, we need to have a location. This is the problem. We can't send people on or move them on in their lives or give them a foundation of recovery so that they can build and follow their own dreams, which probably might not even be to stay in this area. They might want to go out of this area. Let's help facilitate that for them. Let's address what's happening. We can't keep turning a blind eye to what's going on. Like, we all know what's going on. We see people walking down the streets, yelling and screaming at themselves because they don't have the services and the ability to get up underneath a safe, clean place to just sleep, to just rest, to just get a shower, to just get some food in their stomach. So I'm just pleading that you guys take serious consideration that we are addressing a huge problem that's been going on in this area that so many of us are turning a blind eye to. This is an opportunity for Yreka to step up and say, we know this problem is going on. We know it's hurtful. We know it's harmful. We want to take responsibility for every human being that lives in this area, not just the ones we pick and choose. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I don't know how to unmute. I think it's *9.
Rebecca.
Somebody.
Yeah. Lofton. And, it brings up a good point I want to add. She said, some of these individuals, they get trapped here. You got to remember too, some of these individuals they were down in Happy Camp when the fire, they may have been homeless down in Happy Camp, but there's maybe stuck down there and they have no other options. They now lost their house due to the fire. We've seen quite a few of them. When we did the pit count, the point in time count, I know that when I talked to some of these individuals, they were from some of these fires, whether it be down in Happy Camp, up in Medford, up in those. And now, since we have this whole new one, the McKinney fire that's transpired, I know there'll be some more individuals. We actually took in another person. We took in a veteran that lives over there by the McKinney fire, and we got him in a trailer right now on our shop property because he's lost his property down there. And so there's individuals, and we're going to see more and more of this too because of the fires. So we've got to keep that in mind, that some of these individuals, due to circumstances, get trapped here and they have no other place to go. So this is some safe place for them to go. This, like I said, this vet, at least he's lucky enough to have a trailer to live in, but there's lots of individuals we met, from the one you talked to, Paul, that was in this vehicle. Which fire was that one?
Was that Paradise Fire?
I think so. I think that's what you told us.
The vehicle broke down here.
And he broke down, his vehicle broke down, and this is where he's stuck. He had no way of getting out of Yreka. So at least with the shelter, this gives these individuals a safe place to sleep, not on the streets. We have any more public comments? Come on up. Oh, another one? Okay, we'll let her speak and then we'll go to the back online. Go there.
This is a little hard. My name is Denise Patterson. I'm the executive director for the Yreka Food Bank. We have been in this community for over 35 years. We're a small food bank. We have big ideas about helping. And we have offered or accepted an offer to partner with this project to make sure there's food for the meals, for snacks, for anything they need. We have people in this community that are elderly and in the last 6 months have become homeless. They don't tell people this, but I see them at the food bank and it's really hard because they live in their car. But these are projects we need to get a homeless shelter going, and we are there for whatever you guys need. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. So let's go to real quick tries before we jump up. We've got two people online real quick. So let's get them and then you can step up. If you want to just hang on just 1 second.
One already spoke.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I am Ashley Bray. The name on the screen says Jess Bray. That's my husband. I just wanted, to share my wholehearted support for this project. I have worked at behavioral health for, several years. I'm a licensed clinician, and I'm also the quality assurance manager there. I've had the opportunity to see Tara develop programs and put forward her heart into everything that she does. And the other piece is the thoughtfulness, the thoroughness behind the methodology of how this program is going to be delivered, and really considering the impact that it has not just on the people who will be served by the program, but also for the people who are in the community. The issue of location came up, and I just want to say that in this moment, we have no power over location as far as where the homeless individuals are sleeping, where they're panhandling, where they're actively using drugs. It's in front of the schools, it's in the parks, it's everywhere. But once we have a safe place for the people who aren't engaging in those criminogenic activities to be, all of the sudden, we've removed that population from the places that are inappropriate for them to be, and we give access to law enforcement to be able to interact with the people who are doing things they shouldn't be doing out in the public spaces. So I think that's the end of my comments. I just want to say that this is an opportunity for all of the services that are available in Siskiyou County to coalesce into something really, really meaningful. It's not a siloed system if we have this type of connecting place for everyone to come together and wrap the services around the people who are begging to have them. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Want to do the other person online? Retta?
I think that was Rebecca.
Oh, is that Rebecca still? Okay. Okay, tries.
All right, thank you. My name is Trace, and just two short comments. First one is I want to say hi to my boss here and thank you. And as a social services employee, I'm very glad about this counseling homeless shelter that will be opening. And I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from that. Now, secondly, speaking as a Yreka resident, in regards to the letter of support from the council, I know it was just said that the location hasn't been revealed, but I'm hoping that the council knows more about the location and before you consider setting the letter of support. Speaking as a resident of Yreka, I hope that once the shelter is up and running, that it will not impact any residents negatively. And so I hope that the council has more information, has enough information to send the letter of support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trace.
Hello. Tracy Lima, Clinical Director at Behavioral Health. Hello. Also Yreka City resident. I'd like to share with you what my day started off this morning at 7:30 in the morning. I walked into my building at Behavioral Health. I walked by tons of garbage in my parking lot. I marched into my office grumbling. And these poor ladies had to hear me grumble. I had to march upstairs and go find some rubber gloves and go out and pick up the garbage. And so I did. And in picking up the garbage, I came across a hypodermic cap where the children in our community come to services at Behavioral Health. When we talk about location and where our homeless people are, they're living across the street from Behavioral Health. I know that was a decision, and I know that you folks made the best decision that you could make with the information and the resources that you have. We have an amazing opportunity in front of us right now to allow our members of the community to be in a safe space to reside, to sleep, to get some food, to get resources. They're not stuck up on a dirt hill with a fire looming over the top of the back of the hill. And they're not using out in the middle of my dirt lot next to my building. This is a place where they will be able to be. They will not be able to use drugs inside that facility. There will be containment on the garbage that will be generated around that area. But when you live in the community and you're homeless, all you get to eat is garbage food, right? There's nothing against the food pantry because it's not garbage that you give out. But the cheap stuff that they can buy generates garbage and trash like nobody's business. And you as the city and we as members are paying for that garbage pickup. I have to pay for my garbage, so do you. But now we're paying more for it because we're now having to pick it up off the hill. You're paying a clinical director to walk out in the parking lot and pick up garbage in the parking lot and around the building. I think there's good benefit in having a place where folks can have a decent meal. They can have a decent meal. They can not going to have the garbage around. I know that this project is going to have a plan for keeping the space clean and safe. I think that's very important. And that's something that we are lacking. We may have put everybody over in one place in the county that the rest of everybody, they don't have to look at. And you don't have to face the homeless folks. We are interacting with our community, our homeless community. We are having, again, this morning, the toilet is plugged again because folks from the hill are coming into the building, probably not utilizing services as intended. So we are having the cost of that. We are having the cost of lots of crime at my building. We had another catalytic converter stolen. Our fence was cut. Now, is that going to stop the criminal activity? Not necessarily, because we know those that are engaging in criminal activity are not likely to utilize the shelter. But we certainly can separate those that want the help from those that don't want the help. And I think it will make our city police department much more capable of finding those folks and keeping the rest of us safe. And as a Yreka City person, I don't care where we choose to put the shelter. I don't care if it's across the street from me, because one, I know this is an amazing program. I have the benefit of being able to see how it's being developed and to participate. And even as a city member, if I choose to want to participate on a planning committee, I just have to reach out, as anybody else is able to do. And if you want to have a say and you don't like the way things are working, let's be part of the solution. And I am so proud of my colleagues sitting here that they are city members and they are part of a solution. They do a million things all day long, like all of us, but they are also taking time out of their day to take care of our homeless community members. And that's so important. And although I started my day picking up garbage, I'd love to end my day and share with you a brief update on one of our participants that has participated in one of our programs. They were criminally justice involved. They were homeless. They participated in our mental health and our drug and alcohol program. And this is not to tout our program. They successfully completed that program. They got their child back, their custody back of their child, and they now work for a government entity and are making over $100,000 a year. This is somebody who started out in a very different place. These programs work, and you all know they work, and we have an opportunity. We have a ton of money sitting here. It would be crazy to walk away from that money because we're concerned about what the location is going to be. It's certainly not going to be at a school. It's certainly not going to be at the hospital. And it's probably not going to be in somebody's yard. Thank you. I can move on with the beat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Hello, I'm Henry Lancaster, resident of Yreka. I used to be a council member in my old city, and we brought up a proposal to have a homeless shelter. And during that time, the rest of them actually voted it down, and it just got worse. I've seen firsthand what happens with the homeless. And I feel as us being a county capital, we need to build up our population and have workers that can actually do jobs so that we can attract more businesses and industries to our city. Especially if we ever actually want to be our own state, we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Michelle O'Gorman, and I'm the director of the Family Resource Center Collaborative, which has 7 family resource centers. And I'm also the treasurer of the Beacon of Hope Gospel Rescue Mission Board. I'm also a resident of Yreka and own homes in Yreka as well. So I'm coming here with the many hats to tell you that we are giantly in support of this. We just had our meeting. That's why I was late, is Beacon of Hope had our meeting, and we are all 100% in support of this very awesome program. We work collaboratively with the Homeless Coalition. We do MDTs, which is a multidisciplinary team, which everybody comes to the table. Oh, what was that? Scary. And we all partner together and put our resources on the table. And I'm here to tell you, it really does work. A lot of folks are homeless due to circumstances way beyond their control. And the next 2 days, we're going to go and work the local assistance center, is that the LAC, and and help people who are now homeless of no doing of their own, and because of the fires. And we all do the same thing, put resources on the table. The people come and they access them all in one shot. Social Security, DMV, everybody is there to make sure that the people get what they need and they don't have to walk away without. So if you know of anyone who has been, with the fires, have them come in the next 2 days from 9 to 7 at COS, the nursing facility. What's it called? Rural health. Yeah, rural health facility here in Yreka, because that is a huge help to folks when they've lost everything and they don't have anything that they can call their own. We'll be helping them in all the ways that we have to put out on the table. And really, I'm proud to say that I'm from Yreka and a small community that does that helps each other. I grown up on 3rd Street, and if it wasn't for the help of this community, my teachers, my school, my grandparents, and a lot of family, a lot of people acting as family for each other, because it's not about who you're related to. It's about who cares for you and who reaches out a hand to you. And we really need that in our community. And we need to be showing that love to each other so that they can recover from whatever life throws their way. So thank you for
Thank you,
considering
Michelle.
that. Thank you.
My name is Michael Burleson Rainey. I'm employed by the Methodist Church. Pre-COVID, the churches were having winter shelters from 6 at night to 7 in the morning. I worked 2 days a week to do that. During those winters, we had no deaths from exposure. The first winter of COVID, we had 2 deaths of exposure. Last year, we had 1 death of exposure. How many people have to die before we decide that we're going to do something about it and move forward? I'm completely in support of the letter, and I'm hoping it goes forward.
Thank you, Michael. Oh, absolutely.
Mark Gilman, Chief of Police. I wasn't prepared to make any statement, but I'm listening to a lot of comments out here, so I thought I could put some stats out to help some people. So during the fires, we had other agencies from the state come up and they were amazed at our homeless problem. And they made several comments to me about what it looked like. I was working on some stats for another project we're working on. And in the 6-week window, we dealt with 481 homeless calls, just incidents that didn't resolve in cases. We had about half that many were cases involving the homeless. This is just with our small police department. We've had 2 attempted murders in the last 6 weeks. We had a strangulation and 2 other stabbings that they wouldn't tell us what happened. That was just in the 6-week window. So based on what other agencies are telling me, based on our numbers of what we deal with, something has to be done. I'm not here trying to pick a side, but a lot of people are talking about crimes and things that go on. You know, other agencies or other cities like I think it's Henry or Harvey was saying. So I just thought I could get some stats out there for people that this is what we deal with every day in law enforcement on the street in a 6-week window. It's pretty busy.
Chief is
With the homeless, this is strictly the homeless stats, that's all.
Chief, I think you expressed to us before too, that some of these individuals purposely cause crimes or create crimes just so they can have a place to stay. Is that probably fairly true?
Correct. I had one of the people that I was doing the survey on was arrested 21 times in 6 weeks. The other one was arrested 15 times in 6 weeks, 3 to 4 times more contacts for that. The strangulation and the stabbing, 2 different incidents with one person. Yesterday's stabbing was another person that was on parole, and then the 2 other stabbings we don't have the details on. That's a lot for 6 weeks. In the last 10 years, most of our homicide victims have been the homeless in the last 10 years. So it's just some stats for people to think about when they're trying to figure out what we're gonna do. We have to do something.
Thank you, Chief.
You betcha.
Do we have any more public comments? Well, I'm gonna bring it back to the council.
Actually, I am for supporting the letter because it's not getting corrected as we are approaching, as we approach it currently. We are not taking.
Oh, no.
Okay. I'll stop. I am in support of the letter. I do know that with all of this talk, I would like to hear a little more objectivity about the treatment programs, about making them aware that they're accountable for their own behavior. I'd also like to make it well known that we owe our tax-paying citizens courtesies as well. And I'm not being harsh to homeless. I have family members that are in the same situation. I'm ready to help whenever they want to go clean. That's the limit. I will help them get clean. I will not help them make poor choices and continue to. But I do think that a homeless shelter, and I have an idea where it might be, I do think that that would be an asset to the community because it will pull, it's a source for recovery resources, that kind of thing. But again, balance between taking care of our law-abiding citizens, making the programs available to the homeless population that wants it. It's got to be about balance. We can't just continually ignore one side or the other.
Which brings a good point. I'm glad you said that, balance and options. Right now, they have no options. A lot of these individuals do. So having a shelter actually gives them the options, the option to make that choice that you're talking about, of whether or not they want to do the next level.
Well, what we're doing right now isn't working. It's escalating. So let's try it.
Did we close the public?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I said I'd bring it back to the council.
I didn't hear this.
And, the thing about that is, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And basically that's what we've been doing for the past 5 years. We've been doing the same thing over and over and we're not seeing any different result. In fact, the results are getting worse. So it's time. So anyways, I've spoken enough. I want to listen to the rest of council.
My turn.
Anybody wants to go?
Joan Smith Freeman, city council member, for those of you on and Never Neverland. So I totally agree with our Mayor Pro Tem. As Dwayne knows, and most of you know, I think, I helped start the Siskiyou Homelessness Coalition when I was mayor because nothing that we were doing was working. And the homeless situation was getting worse and the crimes, as our Chief Gilman just mentioned. Nothing that we've done is helping and it's escalating. That's the first I've heard of 481 calls in the last few weeks. It is escalating. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think I have a pretty good idea of the location and I think it's a good one. Is it perfect? Well, I mean, who knows? We won't know until if and when it gets built. But I do think that I agree with you on the definition of insanity. We've been doing the same thing over and over again. Nothing is working. It's escalating. It's getting worse. And I agree with you with the hand up, not a handout, to help people get clean, get better. But as I think Rebecca said on the phone, you know, there's the people that are out there sitting in the dirt. They have no options. So this is the opportunity with our agencies that have the funding and the expertise to do so for us to work in coordination, in partnership. Most of the money that comes from the state goes to the county, and we are thankful that the county is working on this. I am thankful, I should say. Everyone can speak for themselves. But I want to thank Supervisor Nancy Ogren for working with us on this, and our city manager, as well as the rest of you. I'm no longer on the coalition, but I do support what you're doing. And I do think that the county is looking, it has written the grant, correct? There. And I think that this is a good thing for us to support, because if we do nothing, it's just going to get worse. And I don't believe that the location that I think it is in a bad location. It's not near any houses.
Thank you. Who's next?
I'll go ahead. This is Councilman McCoy. I'd like to say that tonight, the only thing we are doing is approving or disapproving a letter of support. We're not dictating where it goes. We're not trying to say where it goes. I think all of us probably, to a certain extent, have a little bit of NIMBY in us. And, you know, we don't, I mean, I have people, I live above Gold Street School. We've got homeless that have made wooden shacks up there. And we got homeless living in the alleys up there. And, you know, we'll come out and, you know, we don't see them for a while. And after a couple of weeks, we see them up there. We have homeless walking through the neighborhoods on a regular basis, or unhoused, whatever it is. We do know that from our trips up to Rogue Retreat, we do know that their program is very successful. We do know that it has low and high barrier shelters. It also has pallet homes, and it also just has tent homes. We know that that what it does give the homeless is well, number one, it gives them rules and structure. It's very structured. And Dwayne and I actually talked to a woman who was now working in the shelter. She had failed the program twice. Finally decided, well, I guess it's time to get up off my and do something. And she decided, she went back to the program again and she passed it. And now she shares with a lot of the people that come in and out of the shelter that she works at that, you know, you can get through it. You just got to make your mind up. Law enforcement works very, very closely with them. Matter of fact, up there, people don't get in unless law enforcement gives them a recommendation. You don't come into the shelter. I'm not intimating that will be. I'm not intimating that either it'll be like that or not be like that. I'm just saying there are rules. There are very, very strict rules that they use, and they've been very successful. Successful enough because it was done privately. That the city of Medford gave them at a June meeting, May or June, they gave them $1 million and said, we want you to buy some more property and we want you to set up a bigger operation. And so, you know, that's a wonderful thing. I mean, we all have homeless in our neighborhoods. You might want to look around because you're probably going to see in Yreka, if I have them in my neighborhood where I live, I know you've got them in your neighborhood, and I pick up after them in the alleyways, as I said. I know, Miss Bakachalupi has, she's had them on the hill like that. I know that we see them over on the hill here. We see them in, up on Deer Creek Way. I mean, they're not just on the hill over here, they're everywhere. And we know that not every person is going to take advantage of the services that are offered, but we do know that in other homeless areas, and I look at Medford for one, and then I look at like San Diego for one, that if they can get into some kind of an address, which is going to be the shelter, they're more apt to get a job. Most employers are not going to hire you if you don't have an address. You can say everything you want. You can go in dressed in a $5,000 Versace suit that you got from a local, somebody turned into a local clothing bank. They are not going to hire you. You don't have an address, they don't want you. They don't care who you are. So, I mean, I think it probably behooves us to support, it behooves us to support a letter that supports the program at this point in time. It's not our program, it's a county program. And no matter where it goes, it could go in over at the Blue Goose and it's going to, and 100 people are going to squawk. It could go in down at Rayleigh's, 100 people are going to squawk. It could go up at the top of Northridge or Grizzly, 100 people are going to squawk. It could go over on, what's that circle over behind the high school? What's that? Northview Circle, 100 people are going to squawk. It could go out on where the golf course was going to go. So it's not around anybody and you're going to have people squawk. I mean, that's the nature of people. But I think my impression, if it's of what it's looking like, is that the rules will keep the people centered, keep men and women and children centered that are there. And we have to trust those rules because they have worked in other areas and are continuing to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Mr. Middleton? Yep.
Councilman Corey Middleton for everybody that's out there online. Well, as the saying goes, if you keep repeating the same of doing nothing, you get nothing as a result. I've been on my seat almost 2 years now, and we've been dealing this hot topic since I've been sitting here, and my fellow council members have been dealing with it for a lot longer than that. So, and we're still here today with no shelter, same homeless problem. And, just like the crossroads, that was a very heated debate. There's a lot of people in the audience for that project. And as I stated, if we don't have projects like that moving forward, you're not solving the problem of homelessness and counseling and everything that somebody needs that get out of the situation they're in. So we need and we have to have these. It's a sign of the times. It's where every city, every town is at. We have to have these facilities for the population of the homeless. And in a few weeks ago, I can't remember what meeting it was, we had actually some homeless people that were invited here, and I give them a credit for coming and having the courage to get up and speak to us. And you can tell they were nervous, they felt out of place, but they spoke. They wanted help, they wanted direction. They felt lost. They didn't feel like we had communication with them of what they were supposed to do, not do. They're actually reporting the people who are not doing, what they're supposed to do. So they're not all bad. They're in a bad situation. They're not all out there just committing crime, and they're just in a tough spot right now. So we need to move forward. And, I believe we all kind of know what the location possibly is, but I'm in real estate, and there is a thing called a confidentiality clause while you're in an agreement, and to protect that owner and to, not jeopardize his deal. He has a right to, as of right now, to remain anonymous for that property until, the contingencies are removed, and then the public will know where it's at. But he has that right, as I don't know if it's in their agreement or not, to have a confidentiality agreement while they are pending certain elements. So it's not like it's a, it'll come out, yeah, has to be kind of on the down low for now. But like I said, this is just a letter saying we support the county moving, whether it be that location or not. I think it's a good thing, and we have to, and just hearing actually, from Chief Gilman of what's been going on and taking up resources of just that small of community is disturbing. And so we really do need to move forward for this great program the county is hopefully going to land, and we can start making some great progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well. Unless there's any other comments from the council, see what the wishes of the council is. Oh. I think I spoke. I'm sure the audience is listening to me. Not only that, how many other times have I spoken on this situation, so. I'm sure they're tired of listening to me.
I guess, well, then are we looking for the motion?
Absolutely, if that's what it is.
Councilman Middleton, I will make the motion for item 12B. Actually, we don't know what happened to A. I'll make the motion granting, motion to approve the letter of support for a county housing shelter and authorizing the mayor to speak on behalf of the city council at the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors meeting in support of a shelter facility.
Motion.
This is Councilman McCoy. I'll second that motion.
Yeah, do roll call. John Smith Freeman.
Aye.
Paul McCoy.
Aye.
Warren Milton.
Aye.
Debbie Baird.
Aye.
And I, Dwayne King. Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Can I add something
Yes.
to this? I want to thank Dr. Collard and
Yes.
her whole team
Yes.
and, for working on this, but we also have Michelle in the back who has been instrumental in putting together a private shelter.
Yep.
And we're very thankful for that also. And they're doing it strictly on donations. So, and there are other things that are going on in the community, but things do move slower probably than any of us want, I think. Thank you.
No,
I'll
thank
yield
you.
back to you.
People need to know that that's also another one of the pieces of puzzles that we need to look at. Is there's another piece that the Beacon of Hope is trying to open up a shelter too. So with a collaborative effort of the county and privately funded sources like that, it's going to make a huge impact on the homeless community. So thank you, Michelle.
A great community of leaders.
And Dr. Clark, thank you.
Yes,
too. I
thank
didn't
you.
mean to
I
leave
can't-
you out.
Awesome. Well, then we are now back to 11A again.
Everybody's gonna leave us now.
You guys want
Wait,
take
wait,
a recess?
just take that 5 minutes.
Okay, we are going to go into a 5-minute recess.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Why don't you do that?
I'm always more careful for that. With everything going on. People understand like I was trying to solve this. You know, all these pieces. Now we got. I'm glad you. It's not good. Okay. Okay. 3-person crew, right? Oh. Back up here,
I was doing that. So this is probably how much it's gonna cost. That's not even doing.
How are you doing?
See the signs up?
Yeah. Yes.
And then this is.
We've had a lot of work. I've been too tired to think of much re-election. There's been a lot of. Right now. I'm running for 2 more years.
Like.
Never know, but it's like, it's very educated.
And I can little overview them every year on if we're actually getting cheaper, if we're able to stay. So, I mean, I don't know if that's. But right now, a lot of our. States, so that's when I have to show that you. States, they want me to. So I'll wait. Yeah, so that is one note, like. I'm sorry. I think I think them. Yeah. I'm still having spaghetti. I know, I'm so hungry. Yeah, that is a big job. Yeah, I know, I don't know anything yet, so I'm like, my husband was like, spaghetti. Fine. So I feel great this morning. Like, normally I try to eat my stuff and try to be good at that, but I just had my smoothie. And so like that doesn't pull me over. So I ate my half sandwich and kind of because I'm like, I got salad and soup, and then I worked out, and then I got salad and soup, and I was like, this is fine. And I was like, what's the deal? So I actually was like, oh. Yeah. That was like, I asked him, I was like, should I be this? I was really like, he's like, oh. Like, oh, wait, you might be like, something else. But I think that just to show that, you know, I mean, we can ask. Well, and I think I definitely overestimated the number of property. I don't know. Spatially, yeah.
My wife. He says they're just pressed together. I love them. Okay, Debbie, it's your turn to speak.
So are we going, so now,
All righty.
Want to say something, or is that still Rachel?
I think that's still the same one.
Yeah, that one's.
She already.
Well, that's what I thought, but her hand's still
so we're
up.
going back to number.
Yeah.
11.
All right, we're back in order here. We are back on number 11A, adopting an updated comprehensive fee schedule. Juliana?
Thank you. So this is a joint effort between the finance department and planning and building, mainly because planning and building fees have not been updated for a significant amount of time. 2006 is the last record that we have where we actually amended any fees for those. Retta is available too to talk about the history of that as well, because I was not here for that. So basically what a master fee schedule is, it's a collection of all of the fees that we do in various departments. And so what we are presenting for you today is fire department, a couple of fees in public works, dog licensing, which is animal control, planning, building, and city clerk. So these are just various areas that haven't been addressed in a while or ever, in some cases. And so basically these are all fees that are associated with applications or services that people request from us. So these are not development impact fees. These are not connection fees. These are not taxes. So these are basically fees or deposits for discretionary and policy applications. So government code, and unfortunately I don't have the section here and off the top of my head, but there is a government code section
that does not allow us to make a profit on any of these. So it can only compensate us for the actual time and materials it takes to process these applications or services. So for example, if it costs a certain amount of money to print out mailing labels, we have to pay the exact postage and charge that to the applicant. We cannot charge, additional fees to that. So what you can do as a council though, because you are the fiduciary body of the city, you can set lower or at the amount it takes to process these applications. So you can go lower if you so choose. Basically what happens though is we still have to take the time and materials to do the processing. That is just how long it takes and what it takes to do that. So what ends up happening is our time, so city staff time, is then compensated by tax revenue. So you're basically subsidizing these applications if you do not choose to charge for the actual amount that it takes. So that is completely within your purview. So what we did when we went through the proposed fee list is we aimed to cover at least 80% of the cost of time and materials for city staff spending and assisting with these applications and processing. So again, we can never hit 100%. So some of our fees that you'll see are based off of averages it takes for different applications. Sometimes it takes 2 hours, sometimes it takes 16, but we do try to get to a close average for some of those applications. Others are so variable that we're recommending going to a deposit-based system where we will estimate the number of hours, we will give them a work quote, and then they will pay the deposit, and anything we do not use goes back to the developer. We don't do that in every single application because some of them are simpler and the costs are just very static, and we'll go over that. So the first one we'll go over are administrative fees and services, and those are day-to-day items like printing, mailing lists for individuals. So for example, if you have an alcohol beverage control application, you have to mail a notice to everybody within, I believe, 300 feet of that establishment. They will typically come to a city and ask for that mailing list. So that is now provided on the fee cost list. We so far have been doing that free of charge. So going on to page 58 of your packets, you'll see kind of those types of publication documents and charges. So one of the things we did is we went and purchased a plotter printer so we can print up to 36 inches for plan sets now in-house. We can also scan them. So one of the things we haven't been doing is we did not have a fee schedule for any large scale copies, which is 8.5 by 14 up to the 24 by 36. And so again, that is just basically the cost of the paper, cost of the ink. That does not cover any of the time or services for that. And then mailing services, 85 cents per mailer, and then address list for mailing is $12. So that just covers our time and some of the mailing label sheets that we have that we'll give them. So those are very straightforward. They're just, and some of them are actually statutory. So for example, general printing black and white cannot go over 15 cents per page, and general printing in color cannot go over 25 cents per page, and that's set in the government code. And that's more reference to public records requests, and so that's why they codified that amount. It's an interesting way of doing it, but that's how they did it. So again, we're going back to static projects. So these are pretty set. They're very straightforward. They're typically ministerial exemptions under CEQA. They're typically just filing. So boundary line adjustments are the easiest one to bring up. That requires myself and Pace Engineering to process those applications. And you'll see the breakdown of the hours on page 59 of your packets. So Jesse Leneker is the principal surveyor at Pace for boundary line adjustments or anything to do with the Subdivision Map Act. Any approved documentation must be stamped by a certified or a licensed surveyor in California. I am not that. I will probably never be that because you need 1,200 hours of shadowing time, and I do not have that extra time in my schedule. So Jesse does a majority of the work with Seth Petrie at Pace Engineering as well. You do require a city engineer stamp as well on those documents. Most of my time is spent meeting with applicants, answering questions, and then also processing for general plan compliance, zoning code compliance, and any other assessment of their deed documents. So we do actually require preliminary title reports with these applications to see if there's any issues within that report that would prevent them from doing a boundary line adjustment. So we go through all of that fun stuff. One of the changes in California code is that we are required to file notice of exemptions now prior to The beginning of this calendar year, we did not have to file those with the county or the state unless we wanted a smaller statutory appeal period. Now they require all of those to be filed, so $50 to do that with the county. It is free to file with the state, which is lovely. Encroachment permits are next. Those are in the Public Works Department. We are not changing the simple encroachment permits, which are $100, but we are changing the complex encroachment applications. And so complex encroachment applications has to do with traffic plans, longer term shutdown of city streets. So think of like the Vive telecommunications vehicles you see around working in the city right of way. That's a complex because they're in multiple locations over multiple days. Simple is kind of a one-day thing. You pull up a trailer for garbage and you get it out in one day. So that's the difference between simple and complex, and the breakdown is there. Temporary use permits are basically, there's a list of those. One of the things to note is that this did go in front of the Finance Committee. So that's Council Members McCoy and Joan Smith Freeman. And they did remove special events from this. So that is not subject to the 700. Yes,
I was gonna ask.
they are not there. We did take that out.
$75 to $777.
Yeah.
I thought we'd never have another event.
Correct, yes. So what we are actually going to be doing for special events is they really should be pulled out of the temporary use ordinance and should get their own ordinance specific to special events. So putting those all together doesn't always help. But so those temporary use permits, temporary structures for emergencies, residential units being built are allowed to live in an RV on their property for a certain amount of time. So those are part of those permits. Sign permits, you'll see there, that takes a little bit of time for us to go through. Most of it is actually done by Felicia, the planning and building technician. And so most of the time is spent with her doing that. So signs will go up a little bit in that stance. Temporary signs is a little bit less than the permanent signs. So those are for multiple event advertisement banners or for temporary sales banners that are being put out in front. Those do still need quite a bit of monitoring from us. So even though issuing the permits and reviewing the application may not take a total of an hour that day, what we do have to do is then make sure that they take down their temporary permit when they're supposed to. Which means that we have to go out into the field and take time to check that. So in total, we would be spending the 2 hours between Felicia and I, so 1 hour each. Animal livestock license, again, just reviewing that, we would be recommending to raise it to $235. The exact amount is $234.45, and that's just processing applications for cows, horses, chickens, etc. Again, it's about 4 hours split between Felicia and myself. Historic alterations permit is minor, is just 2 hours of my time to review those, which comes out to $145.60. Major alterations have to go through conditional use permits. And so that is bringing us into the dynamics project section. Again, special events were taken out. And so dynamic projects are those that take more or less staff time and resources depending on the complexity of projects. In most cases, these projects take a lot more time and resources to do that. And so the nice thing about this is it is a deposit-based system. So if we spend less time on it than we anticipated, then they are reimbursed that cost that we did not use. There is a base initial review fee of $2,192.42. And that is basically to facilitate our preliminary review. So that would be non-refundable because that's the bare minimum it takes us to review a concept by someone. And this fee would not be paid until after that occurs. So people with us now do a pre-application meeting where all of the department heads and the city engineer meet with them for at least an hour, sometimes more. And then depending on if the project is on Highway 3, we will invite Caltrans to that meeting as well. And then now the Siskiyou County Air Pollution Control District has now requested to be part of our preliminary review as well. And so a lot of the time for the preliminary review is my time coordinating everybody's schedules, answering questions from applicants prior to that meeting, and then also taking notes and issuing and developing the cost estimate sheet. And so I did add it as a attachment to your applications, what the cost development worksheet looks like that every single applicant's going to get from now on for these dynamic sheets, which basically shows each of our hours. And then we will plug in the estimated cost for them to see exactly how that deposit is lined out. And then at the end of the project, we will basically put in our actual hours worked so that they will have copies and receipts of all that. So the following applications would be charged the deposit-based system. So parcel maps, which is basically a subdivision map act application, which is a subdivision of parcels, so it would not be mergers. That's a boundary line adjustment. Site plan review, again, subdivisions, annexations, conditional use permits, general plan amendments, specific plan creation and amendments, rezoning and zoning text amendments, variances, and then major exterior alterations in the historic district. The other thing is we do not have an appeal fee for any of these applications at this point. There is a small appeal fee that is applied to boundary line adjustments, which is strange because those don't typically get appealed because they're ministerial, which means they're done in-house. They don't go in front of planning commission or city council. And so we are recommending a $500 minimum fee to cover our time to address appeals or charging 15% of the total cost if it's a larger project. And so this basically, a lot of this is going to cover Dawn's time. Because when we get appeals, that means that we have a higher chance of litigation. And so the city attorney typically gets involved with appeals and putting together the staff report for your consideration. So for example, we have the Yreka Travel Center and Hotel Development project that we're working on right now. That was a flat fee, by the way. That is not covering our full cost for that project. That project, some of the neighbors are not necessarily in favor of it and have some issues with it. And so we try to address that during the process, but some people may not like the decision that may happen. So for example, if planning commission wants to approve it and the neighbor wants to appeal it to you, they have that right to do that. We want to make sure that we're recouping the cost to address that issue. So that would just be the application fee. That does not include any work orders from sub-consultants. So for example, the Yreka Travel and Hotel Development is preparing an environmental impact report under CEQA. That would not be part of the appeal, 15%. And so that just helps us cover the staff and city attorney time, and your city attorney is very expensive. It sometimes will also involve Pace Engineering, who are also very expensive. Again, contractors typically tend to be much more expensive than your city staff are in these circumstances. Next is the building permit fees. So those have not been adjusted since 2006. And typically permit fees for processing the California Building Code are done through a inflation or a cost of living adjustment. And so we use the San Francisco CPI, which is the recommendation of the finance director and the assistant city manager. We use that for staff raises and other inflation factors. And so what we did is we just took the January CPI and then we factored those in for the adjustments for those fees. I did take a look at City of Shasta Lake. City of Mount Shasta and City of Dunsmuir are looking at doing the same process of updating their fees for the building department specifically. And so that is how we calculated all of those fees in the building department section. Dog license fees was calculated by the finance department, but basically what they did is they took a look at the cost to fund the animal control unit, how we're responding to calls for animal control services, impounding the dogs, and things like that. So we are not meeting that need right now. So as you can see here in the fiscal year 2021, the animal licenses only paid for 33% of the cost of the animal control unit. And then in 2022, we're looking to hopefully cover about 42% of the cost. That's right. I did not put this section together, so I'm just rolling through the application. So we're recommending to raise those over a series of years because we do happen to have a lot more people applying for low income waivers for these fees. A lot of people do that. So it should be noted though, these fees do not cover the cost of the kennel maintenance or kennel improvements. We're hoping that's something we can address in the future. So right now, these fees would only address the animal control officer and the time there. This also barely covers the cost for finance to do all of the noticing, all of the renewal letters, all of the follow-up and processing for the animal licenses. The other one that we've added as well is the fire department. We have no fire department fees right now because we did not have a fire chief and we were not following the state fire code marshal. I'm not really quite sure how we facilitated some of these inspections. I have a feeling we probably weren't doing the inspections we probably should. And so what we did is we took a look at the fire inspection fees for City of Mount Shasta, City of Dunsmere, City of Weed. And so pretty much everybody's got the same rates. So we just basically copied theirs for the time it takes to do those. So fire code and building code are a little bit different from the planning and other department side in that it's not based on the total time it costs them, because the total time it costs is never going to be recoupable in a affordable fashion. And so we do a smaller fee for that. And so the other thing too is we have not been compensating the finance department for facilitating any of the fee processing, any of our front office time working with applicants or anything on that level. And so one of the things we have added is we factored in a finance admin fee for our dynamic projects, and then we have factored in finance fees for some of the other pieces that are on there. So far we haven't been recouping that process at all. And then this is exempt under CEQA. And finance committee did review it. If you want to add anything to that, the biggest piece, as Councilmember Smith Freeman pointed out, was that we removed the special event permit from the temporary use permits. And so that will stay at the reduced fee of $75 per application. We are investigating the possibility of creating a new ordinance. The other thing that we have not brought to you today is the rental fees for the community center, the theater, the stage, and parks. So none of those fees have been assessed yet. We're going to do those at a separate time because we understand that part of that is a community service. And so that's going to be a little bit different from processing applications for development. I'll back up. That's all. I don't know.
I'm gonna add.
Yeah, this is Jason Ledbetter again, the city manager, and being a city council member is a tough job.
No kidding.
And raising fees is not easy, and we recognize that. But I just want to reiterate some of the points here because this is your decision. But I want you to understand that I live in the city of Yreka, and I am currently subsidizing the service to a few individuals that utilize the services that we just spoke of. And so that is taking money away from the general fund. And when we talk about an improvement to parks, which is the greater good of the overall public, me included, or we talk about the streets or possibly doing something with sidewalks, we are talking about not being able to do certain things because we are currently subsidizing a few individuals within the city of Yreka, which is completely your right to do that as city council. And I know that this is a tough decision to increase fees, but these fees are a direct result of the cost it takes to do the business. And so when it comes to animal control, I also want to make sure that you guys understand that's not even going to cover 50% of the cost to license one of these dogs. And so we are not going to truly recoup on pretty much all of these costs. They're not going to be 100%, but they are a step in that direction. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
So yeah, in conjunction to that, one of the things I'd say is, for council members that remember this was the water rate when that got raised because it hadn't been raised in how many years? Same thing. Nothing got raised for like 10 years, I'd say.
Oh.
Oh, I think more like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like it had been 20 years.
And so, yeah.
So
She's not.
it's got its long time, so she's saying, but it's the unfortunate thing is, yeah, we're left with the pieces to pick up now and figure out what we want to, how we want to move forward. Somehow we need to move forward in some aspect. Or else we end up with the same problem that we did with the water rates where nothing was done and then we get behind and we can't fix the problem that comes about. So we end up with all the night. So this is just something to keep in mind. At this point in time, if it's okay with the council, I'm going to open it up to the members of the public. Because that's what we're supposed to be doing on this, so. Is that okay, council? Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the members of the public then, for public comment.
Lorenzo Love. On the dog license, the compliance with dog licensing in this city is already very low. The vast majority of dogs in this town are not licensed. Now, if you increase the fees, what's that gonna do to the compliance? It's gonna go down, especially when it goes to $100 a dog. How many people are gonna license their dog? There's already people who don't get their dogs neutered because the vet reports that to the city and then they have to pay the license. So they don't pay, they just don't get their dog license. They don't get their dog neutered. They don't have to pay the license. I think this is gonna be counterproductive. You're going to lower compliance with licensing so low that you're actually gonna lose money. You're not gonna gain more money with this. You need to work on compliance, getting people to license their dog, not making it too expensive for them to license it, so they just blow it off. I mean, this had been a problem with other taxes and things. Most of these fees are not optional. You gotta do it. You can't avoid doing it, but people avoid licensing their dogs all the time. And another thing, the chicken, having a livestock registration for a chicken of over $200, that's just punitive. That's just drive people out from having chicken. Yeah.
Good points, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Juliana. You want to comment, are you commenting on that or?
Yeah, I can address compliance, actually. So our finance department has been working super hard this last year with our ACO, who unfortunately has left. So we're hiring a new ACO, animal control officer. And actually we are at 80% compliance. It took a lot of effort this past year, but we actually went and got compliance for both 2020 and 2021 and did back charge people who did not pay. And then, so yeah, so we're actually at 80% compliance this year. So we're hoping that that continues to move forward because again, and this is with other issues too, with ongoing livestock permits and anything that you need to get on an annual basis, business licenses as well. Because we have new staff, we're able to go back through the records and, we've been combing everything pretty thoroughly that we are addressing a lot of delinquent businesses. We've been addressing a lot of delinquent dogs and chickens. So it's taken a lot this year, but I think we'll be on a really good track for next year. The other thing too is we can always change ordinances to change fees in the future. So if you want a separate chicken licensing fee from a horse, that's something we can talk about in ordinance changes.
Well, it does bring up a good point. Licensing there, especially for dogs, is an intricate thing. I would say, we have a lot of individuals that can't afford this. I'm wondering if there's something that we can have a financial exemption for people that shows that they don't have the financial status to do this sort of thing.
We actually already do have that. We have a program. If you qualify as low income, you can do community service in place of dog license fees. We also have set up, as Juliana mentioned, we did back charges back to when people stopped paying them in 2020. We've set them up on payment plans. We've waived, we've waived the late fee if they set up a payment plan. We have tried to work with individuals I'd be happy to set up a payment plan for this next year. If they say I can only pay you $10 a month, great. Here, you've got 6 months to get it done.
So I guess my only other concern is like some little old lady that's basically lives off of, $1,000 a month because she's fixed income on Social Security.
She'd be low income.
So she was.
She can go down to the
she was
rescue
qualified
ranch
for-
and pet dogs and feed them for 3 hours and here's your license.
What if she's handicapped?
We will work something out.
I guess I'm trying to.
I mean,
Options, because I know a lot of elderly people that have those sort of.
we've worked for with everything from, I don't give the government any piece of my information for anything. I don't care what you say, to here's my tax return. So, I mean, we really do try and be as compliant and as helpful as possible to get those things accomplished.
So, yes, come on down.
Yeah, thanks.
I just have a question about the hundreds of homeless dogs that we have in the city. Every single homeless person has at least one dog. Here we get back to what Debbie said about you've got the group that wants to be homeless with their dogs and the people that don't have much money that are being forced to pay. What do you charge for a dog?
40, is it 40?
Oh, because the county only charges 10 for a neutered dog and 25 for a unneutered dog, I think it is.
And they're struggling.
And they're struggling.
Yeah.
Well, they're struggling
Thank
to
you, Dawn.
pay their animal control officer.
County's struggling to pay everything right now. So what, I don't mind, it brings up a good point on the homeless issue. What is our compliance on homeless individuals and dogs? Are we requiring any of that, or how does that work?
Yeah, they actually do come in. They're actually probably some of the better ones who come in too, because especially if they're transient and like genuinely transient and not necessarily homeless. You know, and again, I separate those two because homeless means they need services. Some people just like the transient lifestyle. Those actually are typically the best about it because they go to a lot of different cities and they know their check-in. And it depends on the amount of time that they spend in the city based on our current ordinance. I think it's a couple of months. So if they are staying with us for over the summer, they do have to get a license. They do have to be vaccinated. So for rabies and everything like that, need to be up on that. And so they do come in. They're typically the ones who use the low income waiver as well. And so they'll do community service in most cases, but some of them do pay the fee.
Thank you.
Is there a provision for, like, I just looked the county up, is there also a provision, the county charges a 50% late fee? Is there a provision for that in ours?
That is codified. So we can't switch that via resolution until we change the ordinance. And the ordinance does need to be updated, as with many of our ordinances, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? Do we require licenses of cats?
No.
We do not, but you can. That's a whole different thing. So.
Open up the chicken thing.
That would get rid of the 19 cats across from, in the house across from the courthouse that the court
Yeah.
employees are always complaining about.
You can look at the city of Weeds minutes, and recordings. No.
Oh,
do not. No, there's it gets away from the fees, but if you do, basically your fees are set in your ordinance and either they're specific to the ordinance. So like the shopping cart ordinance has a specific fee in it for the shopping cart piece. And others, like the fees that we're presenting, are set by resolution. And so going back to the livestock permits, special events, things like that, if you want those to have a specific rate, we just have to amend the ordinance to state that. And so you can do that. Other cities have done it for farm-based livestock are permitted that in different categories than recreational livestock. There are different things that you can do. Exotic animals typically have a higher licensing fee. We don't even address exotic animals if you'd like to do that, which that's another thing. And again, if you want to do cats, you can license whatever you want. It's really based off of when we require licensing and applications, it's either associated with a state mandate, which dogs requires us to make sure that people are getting rabies. So we do actually have to keep track of those per state statute. Or you find a situation like with chickens that there's a negative impact to holding them. And so you want to make sure that people are housing chickens in a healthy, safe environment that isn't negatively impacting surrounding properties. And so that's why you would require a permit, so that we make sure that that person is following the rules correctly, that we have the right to go and inspect those pieces. So that gets more into the ordinance structure than fees. But it is something to know, is that, you know, we can change that aspect.
Cats also tend to, I don't know if you noticed, but if you stop at the rest stop down near Reading Lakehead, what you'll do is you'll see 4 or 5 cats. Then all of a sudden you'll see 50. Next time you're there, 2 months later, 3 months later, there'll be 220 of them. And then 3 months later, feline Luke has set in and it runs through the whole area of cats, and they're all dead except for 4 or 5. And I've talked to Caltrans about it, and they said, well, feline Luke tends to take care of them, and you don't see that in dogs. But
No.
you know, we all have to remember, I moved here in '86, so I'm still a flatlander, I know. But when I moved here in '86 and lived on Minor, part of the reason they quit allowing chickens was because I had to smell 8 chickens in the back of somebody's yard, and they never cleaned it. And I mean, it smelled like shit. And if you've ever smelled chicken, it's pretty bad. And we smelled it for years and years and years. And I don't know who did it, because I didn't do it, but we just finally had to move because I didn't want to smell somebody's chickens and all their poop everywhere. And it's unfortunately, you know, I hear what Lorenzo's saying, but unfortunately it's the few people that don't comply that ruin it for everybody else. It's the few people that don't comply with licenses and being careful about getting people neutered that causes us to euthanize, let's just call it what it is, kill 1.4 million dogs in the United States a year. Okay. And that's what we know of. Rescue Ranch, just when I got my dogs from the lava fire, again, one of them, everybody knows, one of them had been shot probably by a farmer out there, because what they do is they just let him out and let him run. They were trying to drive a lot of the farmers out, and so they let their dogs run. The other one, somebody had run over it, so he amputated finally the rear leg. This is not uncommon. It was not, and I'm not going to go into anything else that's going on out there, because I don't want, you know, that's not what this is about. But the bottom line is having them licensed, at least if they get out. And we had our shepherd license that we rescued from Bakersfield from a kill facility 10 days before they were putting it down. And she got out. She was wonderful. She gets down to USA Gas, which is a long way from us. And kid calls and says, "Hey, Mr. McCoy, we got your dog. It's in my car." I said, "Okay, do you want me to come get her? Or you want to come to the house?" And the kid goes, "Well, no, you just come down and get it. She's a good dog." So, I mean, it does help with those sorts of things, you know. And a dog license, yeah. If you own a horse, I mean, and you can't afford a horse license, I think that's the least of your issues. You can't afford hay. My dad we used to say, all 4 of us boys, we'd find a truck or something that we'd like, and it would be good on the farm for us and everything, and we'd want to buy it. And Dad would say, "Okay, buy it." I said, "But it only gets 10 miles a gallon." Well, if you can't afford the gas, you can't afford the truck. If you can't, I mean, if you can't afford to license the horse at 200, you can't afford the horse, because you're not going to be able to afford the hay. So I mean, we are, I'm sorry, Joan, I mean, Councilman Smith Freeman, we are at a point right now where we can continue to choose to subsidize and just pull 50 or 60 or 80 or $100,000 out of our hats and just say, you know, we're not going to spend it on the park, or we're not going to spend it on the roads, or we're not going to spend it on this. You know, we've got a stage right now that as a council, we've been talking about since for about 3 years, where we let people use it. We subsidize them. We have no money to replace it. And it's going to have to be replaced pretty soon. And that's going to be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Well, you know, we're not doing our citizenry any good by letting them, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to charge them $1,000 or $2,000 every time, but we're not doing any good by not putting some money away for it. And we've talked about it. I know what under our 2 city managers ago. So, I mean, yeah, we can continue to choose to subsidize. We could continue to raise all at once. We could raise over a period of time. The one thing that both of these women shared with both of these employees, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, shared with us at finance was that was that there are ways for people who don't have money to get through certain things. But the other thing is, if somebody needs a permit for a building or something like that, they need to pay, I mean, they need to pay for it. I'm not saying, we don't need to charge San Diego, the neighbor around the corner from my brother in Claremont. This is a World War II neighborhood, $30,000 for permits in San Diego City. We're not charging that. We're not and the companies that have come in the last few years look at our fees and go, oh God, yeah, I'll pay that right now. I want to get out of this. I mean, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Yreka. And, you know, I filed a permit for $35 when I did my roof. I'm going to tell you right now, I know there are people doing roofs in Yreka and they're not filing a $35 permit. You know what? I mean, does it make me mad? No, but it's frustrating when other people think that they can just, you know, take the government money is theirs and they can just take it. So I'll yield all my time back. Thank you. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. Good. Thank you. Anybody else has anything to say? I was, oh, okay. So I was just looking a little bit and I have seen it. Thank you. Emily. I did see, most of this, I think, Paul and I did, council member. And.
Can't hear that word you're saying, Joan.
I'm not saying anything important.
Okay.
My microphone's on. I haven't gotten there yet. That was just introductory. So, yeah, I have a little bit of sticker shock here. So, I'm really glad that. Yeah, you're hiding behind the podium. There you go. That you listened about the events. When I saw that the event temporary fee was going to go up from $75 to $778. That did concern me because I was executive director of the chamber for a number of years and I knew that the chamber would never be able to afford that. And I thought, that's it, no more events. So thank you for taking care of that. And I think that should come back to the council when someone wants to put on an event. But I was just calculating here a little bit. The sign permit fee would go from $75 to $315. That's 4 times as much. Historic district sandwich signboard would go from $25 to $315. That's 12.6 times as much. And the historic district alterations, minor alterations, going from $75. The 145 isn't too bad, but the major from 75 to 2192 is 29.22% higher. I think that the sticker shock, I think that our citizens are going to be shocked. I'm not saying, mind you, that I don't think that they haven't been raised for a number of years. I do think that we need to look at a progressive way to raise these, just like we did with our water and sewer. So it's not as much of a shock to our citizens. Now, exactly how much that should be, I think we need to put this on another agenda, maybe have a workshop and take a look at what would our citizens would feel would be more reasonable. And that's just my gut feeling on it. I know how Councilmember McCoy feels and he thinks that we should do it.
Oh, and I'm not saying, no, I said, do it in stages.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking would
I
be.
think we need to do it.
We
I don't think we're
absolutely,
being great fiduciary.
we're going in the hole. And as our city manager said, all of our citizens are subsidizing when we're doing these things. But I really think that it would be more fair to our citizens to raise it a little bit at a time, as much as we feel is reasonable. That's just the way that I feel about it.
Well, I think it's a good point.
And Donna Bacigalupi even said that, the county's rates are so much lower than
Yeah,
ours.
that's the reason why they're financial ruins.
We raised the rates on the cemetery for plots. People kept their ashes home.
Oh.
And we've gone more and more. Wow. So.
Good point. Good point. Thank you. So Aye.
quickly just address the gradual increase, which I understand your point and where you're going with that.
Lower it down so.
Now I'm really like, I'm really short. That did look funny, didn't it? So I don't know if you guys noticed that she had a whole section regarding the deposit-based system for fees. Can't really do that on a gradual basis. I think you could address those separately if you guys understood that deposit-based system of saying, this is what we think it's gonna be, this is what our estimates are. They agree to that, they make that deposit, and then we go back to them with the details of this is what we spent, this is the time that was spent on these different tasks. And hey, we came in under our estimate, here's your money back. Or hey, we went over our estimate, this is how much more is needed. So you may want to think about those two things separately. Because you could say, hey, we like that deposit system, we'd like to pass those, we'd like to table the rest, come back and talk about a gradual system for those. I'm just trying to give you guys some options. I know it would be kind of, because they're two different animals that we kind of have together. If that kind of makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and just really quick on your, just the only one to bring up is the major exterior alterations for the historic district. So your code links that with the conditional use permit process. And so it should have never been $75 because it requires a public hearing at planning commission. It requires much more extensive permitting than the minor. And so that just never was addressed, and they were just treated as the same permit. And so we can go back and take a look. The problem with that one too is the last couple that we've done, it's been a number of years since we did that. I believe the last one was for to demolish a house in the historic district, which you need to get a CUP for. So even if you were to put a dollar amount to that, depending on how the code reads, it would just be a conditional use permit anyway. So they'd have to pay that. So we tried to line up the fees that were actually hooked together as well, that people were actually paying that $75 in addition to the conditional use permit fee. So one of the things too is there are several fees that we don't even have listed on here that basically shouldn't be their own separate fee because one, they're not actually in the ordinance themselves. But what happened is if you take a look at the planning applications, which we are going to fix all of those, they were basically saying certain pieces cost certain dollar amounts. So people had to go through and check which one that they were. And so what we ended up doing is just combining all of them to actually what the application requires. So even though the application for like a site plan review is $125, it also requires mailing and posting, which was then additional fees that people would then have to pay in addition to that. So if that makes sense, they were being charged that full amount without realizing it was the full amount. And then the other thing too is at any time, if we need PACE or contractor work, people sign a disclaimer saying that they will pay the full cost of anything and reimburse that. So what the deposit-based system does is it does that on the front end as opposed to the back end. So what you're seeing now is we get very upset people for boundary line adjustments specifically, is one example where they pay us $800 up front. And then we send them the invoice at the end of the process for a couple $1,000s to reimburse us for PACE's time to do what they need to do. And so that's one of the things as well. If we do it this system, they get a deposit form at the front end so they know what they're actually going to be charged instead of getting this bill on the back end for thousands of dollars that they didn't realize they were going to have to pay. So that's also one of the things we're addressing for that. So some of these fees, I didn't even include some of the sub fees that were on the application form because they're just actually part of the application itself. So people are actually paying a lot more than what was previously listed. That makes sense.
And if I may, I'm looking at per sprinkler riser or floor on the commercial sprinkler, $107 per sprinkler riser. That seems a little high.
Or
It was 107. Let me see that.
yes,
Per sprinkler riser.
yes.
That seems high.
Nope, that is the exact same as, that's under the
Is
fire
that the
department
fire
review.
department?
Yep. So that is the exact same as Weed Mount Shasta.
But the one underneath it per sprinkler head's only $2.10.
So a sprinkler riser and a sprinkler head are different. So a sprinkler head We don't have sprinklers in here. This is not a good building.
So we're not up to code.
Yeah, we are not up to building code. So a sprinkler riser, I would have to get the specifics from building, but I'm trying to remember, they are not the same. You don't need as many of those in your building, but I can get you exact information on what those are, but those are the exact same as what we've previously been doing. And actually the sprinkler head themselves went down in per sprinkler head cost.
I saw that.
Yeah, so some of them are,
$2.
yeah. So a sprinkler head riser is a different piece of equipment that is required per floor, as opposed to a sprinkler head that's in the ceiling. But I can go and get the exact definition of well, I can Google it right now.
Speaking as one who is working on the Beacon of Hope, where we put sprinklers in, and one who has finished another building in town that is much larger, about 12,000 square feet. It's not out of line, and they're no, it's not out of line, and sprinkler systems of their own and Ansel systems, both are very expensive. And if you want to make sure that when it's inspected, it's working right, because in an Ansel system, if you get the grease fire or the electrical fire, you're talking about kids in the school being burned or whatever, or in a public place, and in a with just the fire suppression system and just a water type system, it's the
Well,
same thing you're
so-
talking about.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with
is
that.
great.
putting Fire suppression stuff. I thought that was probably from 75 to 107. That wasn't so bad.
A sprinkler riser, just really quick, is the bridge between your water supply system and the sprinkler pipes in your building. So that's basically all it is. And so you would typically only have one unless you have multiple sprinkler systems on each floor of, like, say, a large commercial building. So you would have one per building. So if you took Beacon of Hope, they would have one sprinkler riser, but they would have multiple sprinkler heads that are small.
And it's a very expensive part of the build, much more expensive than you would ever think.
Sprinkler systems are very expensive. And they have to be specially certified as well. And so that's why we have to charge an
And
extra
they're
cost for
required
that.
by the state of California.
Yes.
And if you have a commercial system, a commercial kitchen, what they consider a commercial kitchen, not only do you have the sprinklers, but you have to have the Ansel,
Hoods. Yeah.
system.
And your
which
hoods.
drives the price up another 50 or 100,000.
I will say Jerry is not here. The only really important fee that he really wanted to see on this list is the false alarm fee. And so that is something that we do not charge for right now. And so basically within the fire code, they're allowed one false alarm. So if you have like a sprinkler system or a security system that senses fire, you get one free one. And then after that, it's a proposed,
$50.
no, it's a proposed $650 for a false alarm.
Yeah.
So that is one that Jerry had mentioned when we were going over this list, that there are a couple of buildings where their alarms will go off multiple times. They by law have to respond to each of those. And if it's a false alarm, it takes a lot of time and energy to do that. That is the only one I remember that he really did request.
May
that
I
we
ask the police
propose.
chief a question? Yeah. Hey, on false alarms, you always got a call from me when I was no matter what administration I was, or if I was activities director for 22 years, you guys got a call. And we never cited, but we could have cited misdemeanor, couldn't we? When a child stands there on purpose and pulls a fire alarm, says, listen, I'm gonna clear, because we had it happen. It happens regularly in schools.
Right. This is Chief
Yeah.
Gilman. Yeah, so we're talking two different things.
I understand.
Yes. So it is a crime to make a false alarm. It's a crime to go into a movie theater and say, yell fire.
Yeah.
That's all the same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay,
We do a lot of false alarms too, like Jerry is talking about. We have burglar alarms like most of you have in your houses or buildings. That we respond to all the time. Habitat for Humanity, we go to every single day right now. So, and we don't charge for that right now, which
No,
wish
I
we did, 'cause
understand.
we're there constantly. But yes, what you said is correct.
yeah. I mean, if you have a repeat offender, parents learn real quick.
I'm glad you don't charge for it, because my alarm has went off numerous times at one of my buildings, and you know that one all too well.
$650 every time.
No fire ones, no fire ones, just police, motion detector.
This is fire alarm, I know. Thanks, chief. Fire alarm, yes.
That was just fine.
Do we want to look at the ones that are front end, like she's talking about tonight? And do we have to have a second reading of this?
You
Do we
do
want-
not. This is a resolution, so just one.
Do
But
we
you,
want to look at that and then bring back the others for,
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
yeah.
So Debbie wants to go ahead and speak to it.
And Corey hasn't spoken yet either.
I don't need to. Oh, I'm sorry, Cor. I'm fine.
You're fine?
Mhm.
Yeah, but you haven't.
I just don't, unfortunately, you know, I hear you guys, but unfortunately, we're faced with, we're talking, what, 16 years? Of 2006, I was raised.
It's been a minute.
And, you know, yeah, it's an unfavorable thing, but we're doing a disservice to our city when we keep saying, here, Debbie, she's the one who's always saying, oh, we still have the money, and we don't have the money. This is why we don't have the money. So another thing, like the homeless, we're not gonna solve the problem. if We keep passing the buck and keep saying, no, we're gonna keep this at $10 since 1911. Well, one was, you know, I'm being serious, one was.
Yes, Councilmember Middleton, there is, and that's not on this sheet.
Yeah,
But our business license cost is based off of either 1911 or 1914 and is still $35 as it was then. If you ran that through an inflation calculator, it should be over $1,000. So,
Well, it says it's 75 now and they're raising it to 125, right? For home occupation permit.
That is separate. That's different.
yeah, that's a different, yeah.
So,
so anyways, I you know, it's unfavorable, you know, but we're gonna keep here, keep not having the money, and
so I think
it's
Debbie,
gonna get worse.
Debbie, I think needs to have the floor.
I'm done.
She's been waiting patiently.
Good, but it's Wayne's floor.
So I agree with Councilmember Freeman regarding tabling this. We could talk about this for another few hours, and I don't want to tell you the truth. Not tonight anyway. I do have concerns, which everybody knows about, and I did speak with Don regarding some of them, and he helped clear up a bunch of stuff. There are multiple reasons why this gave me sticker shock as well, because of the big jump all at once. I support the doing it in increments, which we can decide on if we go that direction. But I do think this needs to be tabled and have it agendized again so that we can specifically address if we want to do the incremental increases and be up to date by whatever. I 100% support us covering the cost of what it costs to do business.
Right.
My concerns is how quickly it's happened, that it was only on our webpage, city webpage, whatever it's called, internet stuff. For 4 days for the community to review. That's
more than that. We by law have to have it up at least. So by law, we have to have it up at least 10 days in advance of the meeting. And so we have to post here in the physical building. We have to post in a general circulation paper, and then we have to post online. So it's been available online since the beginning of August. So August 3rd, it was also posted to the Siskiyou Daily News, which is 14 days. And then the other thing too that I forgot to mention is we have been telling people that there will be possible increases in fee for the last 2 months. And so, for example, James McIntyre has talked to every single inspection he does or people that he meets with for building. He's talked to them about the fee increases. And we actually had these done for Councilmember McCoy and Smith Freeman, I believe at the end of July 18th for their meeting. So we've had those numbers. And so we have been sharing them with potential applicants and letting them know ahead of time, getting their input. And then, like I said, the building inspector has been giving that valuation sheet as well as the fees. And we have not received any negative impact or negative input from the building side. Planning, most people just saw it and said, yeah, that's a lot more, but no one has been deterred from applying from my understanding. So we have been talking to people longer than the 14 days, but for the posting, it has been out for 14 days at least, if not more. Yep.
But if we passed it tonight, how much do you want to make of that day tomorrow?
Oh,
at the
yeah.
Next meeting, oh my gosh, this place will be full of
Well-
people that didn't.
We don't know.
Sorry,
We don't know until we do it.
sorry, Deb.
Debbie's turn.
Debbie's turn.
I can't read my own writing. As these prices increase, though, I am concerned. I was confused because some of these refer to building situation, so I thought it was part of the developer impact fees. And that really concerned me that there wasn't enough discussion before a decision was going to be made. Cut to the chase, I would like this table. I would like to come back and speak with everything that we're concerned with. Number one, I do think chickens being $100 per head every year, is that
No,
what it is?
no, 200.
One-time fee?
Yeah.
Thank you for signs. Sign is a one-time fee. It is not every year.
For all the chickens.
No, it's a one-time fee for just having a chicken license at a property.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter how many chickens you have or how many horses, it's one.
Well, it does. You can only have 6 chickens in the city. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but my
No
point is
roosters.
that it would have been $600.
No, it's
So
not. No,
it's
they're
not.
one-
Well, no, she
No, they're
cleared that
one-time
up.
fees, yeah. Just like you don't pay $2,182 every year for the permit to build your house. If it's taking you 5 years to build your house or 6 years to build your house, you don't pay that every year, right?
That is
So-
correct.
I mean, you know,
We hope.
we also have to remember that, not this council, but a council, sliced developer fees in half. And how many houses got built during that time?
I think two
Two.
people on this
And
council.
one, two,
It was supposed to be 1 year. We didn't get anybody the first year. So the second year, we got 2. Only one of them knew that we had waived the
Yes.
fees. The other one was an accident and said, oh, really? No."
and many people, again, find this the cost of doing business. It's in the business world as a developer, this is the cost of doing business.
But we're eliminating some of the locals because we're outpricing them, and that's a concern to me. But we've got to cover our costs. I don't have a problem. I just
But,
think we should.
so in conjunction with that, Jason, is there any reason why we can't continue this discussion means it's 10 after 9?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask you to take care of a housekeeping matter?
If you think of like
Housekeeping.
housekeeping matter.
Yeah. I heard you call for public comment, but I'm not sure that you called for, opened a public hearing and closed a public hearing. If we could get that out of the way, or maybe I'm wrong, but if we could get that out of the way, we did notice a public hearing for tonight, and then you can continue your discussion further later if you choose.
So I did open up for public comment.
This is very confusing because it is similar to ordinances but it is a resolution. And so it does list here on 11 that is technically it is a public hearing. That's why the noticing got done. And so I think just for,
But you opened it. I did open up for public comments, so that was official. I don't know if I officially closed it for public comment, so is there any other public comments at this point in time? Okay, I'm officially closing it for public comments at this point in time. then.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now let's go back to, is there any particular reason why we have to come up with this decision tonight? Can we table this, like Debbie said, and go into further discussions? I think there is gonna be a number of fees that we'd like to further discuss unless people want to stay till midnight. I think there might be a better point to just maybe even having a workshop over this or not.
yeah, I think that would be probably prudent where this was the only item possibly on a workshop that then came back to a
I
regularly
think
scheduled
so.
meeting.
I think it'd be more appropriate myself, as long as it's okay with the rest of the council.
Well, we have now 4 workshops that we're trying to do. And I personally, I know that I'm retired, so I don't get up till, well, the dogs get me up usually at 4:30, but
Slacker.
we're called on to make the hard decisions. I'm not asking that we approve all of it, but we've heard testimony from 3 different city employees that as far as what we're doing with one is changing it from a back end to a front end. Now, in my opinion, I'd rather know right up front what I'm paying than have the city come to me and say, oh, you're gonna pay $2,183. Why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? Well, we didn't know. And that's basically what they have there. And so for me, I think some of this is a no-brainer. I am very concerned and I'm up for reelection, but I'm very concerned that we are running the city and not getting money back for what we need to get money back for. So, I mean, for me, I think I would like, you know, if we're concerned, which I hear a lot of concern on a lot of it, then maybe phase it in. But we don't want to do like we did with the developer fees and not get anything out of it. And, you know, and we don't want to do like whoever it was on council with the water. And then all of a sudden they try to get grants and the government says, well, you haven't updated it since 1960. I mean, I'm sorry, if we're 1914, 1917, 1920, come on, those need to be updated and they need to be updated ASAP. It shows a lack of commitment on our part. It shows a lack of commitment on the part of the entire city. It shows a lack of interest on all of our parts that we haven't kept up with that from 1917 on. So I think there's some that can be adopted tonight. I think there's some that may need to be tabled and brought back in. I think before we leave, we need to schedule I think we have 4 different workshops we need to schedule because we're going to be busy beavers here. And we're going to be here late. So no matter what. So I think we need to plan to, you know, plan that we're just going to be here till 10 or 11 on some of these so that we need to have an adequate discussion. You know, I don't want to say, oh, it's 9 o'clock. Let's cut the discussion off. We'll do it another time. You know, I mean, I'm fine cutting it off tonight, but let's plan.
Oh, I agree.
Let's either do it from let's plan 4 to 8 another time or 1 to 5 another time or whatever. And, you know, and if it costs me the election, it costs me an election. But I mean, we need to do what's right for the city.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
And we are thinking about the people. Obviously, we're talking about this, but I'm saying part of this needs to be done tonight. It's a no-brainer. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, if we start separating them out tonight, then that's gonna, where do we stop? That's why I say, that's why I feel that we should have a workshop in conjunction first to go review this, and then we could go to the next meeting and fine tune this and be done with it.
Well, it wasn't my idea to separate. It came from somewhere over,
Right.
one of the other 4 counselors. I'm just saying, I mean, we're kicking the can down the road. You know, when some of the can be smashed right now and we can, you know, go ahead and say, well, we've made some changes, but we're going to kick it down the road.
I say if we have a workshop, it has to be ASAP.
Yeah.
I mean,
So we can be
putting
prepared.
it off, and that's what happened with the when they did the impact fees. That was supposed to be a 2-year temporary or a 3-year. Why it was in the recession, they forgot to come back and re-raise them back to where they were supposed to be, and it went on for since 2008 and 9. And we had to make the hard choice to bring them back to where they were supposed to be. And there were several places, commercial places, who were filled. People with multi-million dollars that came and built these great hotels. We lost out truck stop, Yreka Motors,
I'm
all
not
these
asking
places.
for
So
8 months, I'm
yeah.
just asking.
but I say we gotta
Do it
come back as soon as possible, not forget about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, we're not doing our due diligence. We drag it out, just like you said, what we've done in the past.
Just a point of clarification, you can only approve fees in a regular meeting. So if you do hold a workshop, it would be a workshop and
Correct,
then
right,
to a regular. So,
So we gotta
Yeah,
do it as soon as
yeah,
possible
okay. I just
for the
want to make
next
sure
meeting.
that was clear. We were just talking about that. I'm like,
Workshop and next
okay,
meeting.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. The workshop would just be to clarify some of these fees and adjust them and then bring it back to the next meeting to make a final decision.
Yeah.
But-
What
But
we,
if we had the workshop prior to the 30th meeting, we
Right.
could have it agendized on
Exactly.
the 30th. Be
Absolutely.
done with.
isn't the 30th a workshop meeting also?
No, it's a agenda.
No, but
It's a special meeting, so
Oh.
yeah.
okay, never mind.
Juliana, to clarify, for this 5 council members, what we consider a workshop is when we sit down and discuss things, but we make it very clear on the agenda that there will be no action taken in the
Right.
meeting. That's what we call a workshop.
Right.
So, yeah.
So in conjunction with that, what is the council bill?
31st. I don't have a calendar or good vision.
Well, I'm gonna still say that we need to make some decisions tonight other than a workshop. I don't know how, I mean, I don't know how Corey feels about it, but I mean, some of this is a no-brainer. It's a no, when it's been since 1917, when it's been since 1920, what's another 6 or 8 or 10 weeks. Come on. We've been screwing the public for, by not charging enough. We screw all our citizens, for the last 100 years, 110 years.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't feel like we're kicking it down. the
No,
road.
no, we're addressing it. We're moving
Yeah.
forward. So
I feel like you're kicking it down the road. You have some no-brainers. You have the no-brainer of don't charge them at the end. I mean, how do you like it if you go down to Mount Shasta and you're doing a $50,000 remodel and then at the end they come in and say, hey, we're gonna need 5,000 for you for this. Don't you want to know up front? Okay. I mean, when I do work at my house, I usually get some kind of a idea. Is it gonna be 1,000? Is it gonna be 500? Is it gonna be 2,000? Is it gonna be 25? So that's what I'm saying.
I don't think anybody's debating that, Paul. I think that, Mr. McCoy, I think what we're debating is some of the other issues that we want to make sure that we are like, maybe even just the dog license fee. Maybe that's not adequate for somebody here. And I don't think, when I'm saying 10 after 9, I can stay here all night if you guys want to, but I don't see the point in it when we can specifically have a meeting to address these, get it out of the way, and then go to the next city council meeting and get it out, whole thing, punch it out and be done with it, not have to drag it out versus not get it done tonight. And then the next meeting, we still have to go to another meeting and do it anyway. So we might as well just punch it out one night and be done with it.
Yeah, and if we do, that's great. But again, I'm not asking to punch all of it out. I'm asking to look at the things that where contractors, where people already know this is what you're gonna pay. And give them, instead of giving it on the rear end, give it to them on the front end. That's all I'm saying. Let's be honest with our customers and constituents.
Yep, no, I agree. I understand. So what's the wishes of the council? Does it want to be tabled into a workshop and then go into, I'm gonna go around to each individual council right now and do that because it seems like we need to make that very abundantly clear. Joan Smith Freeman, this is a question, do we want it tabled, have a workshop and then bring it back at the next regular city council meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Paul McCoy.
No.
Mr.
50-50, but I'd rather get it all at once because it seems like there's confusion. I don't want there to be confusion, but I get what you're saying. That one's a no-brainer. We've had some time to look at this. But yeah, let's bring it back, but we have to get it done. I mean, we've had time to look at this and that's a question that we shouldn't be here just going questioning right now. We've had time to send these ladies. I understood, so. But I'll table it.
Table it.
And I agree. I think we should, need to have some questions answered. And then we'll bring it back. So we need to, figure out do you want to decide on the date for that or do you want to send that out, Mr. Ledbetter, to?
I will send out some options. I've heard over here some chatter about 8:31 working for 2 council members already. And so unless you guys are aware of your schedule now.
No, I gotta look because I'm out of town.
I will get in contact with you folks and we'll figure it out. Just for my own understanding, are you considering 6:30 PM, just like the regular time?
I can come earlier if you guys.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Okay.
5:30 works for me.
I'd rather do it earlier just so the staff can be present and less overtime on that aspect, but that's my own view.
Can I get a clarification? So what we're saying tonight is we definitely do not want to do the things that we can do that we know are credible and that we know we can get started right now. And we want to go ahead and we're putting it off. Okay. Thank you.
I think that's clear.
So the council is wanting to put that off. Okay.
I will be in contact with you guys so you can look at your schedules
Okay.
and I will suggest 8:31 and then I'll let everybody know.
All righty.
Then you have a backup date, like 8:31 or first.
Then
That's what-
6:30, so we may be here.
Yeah, I
And I don't want to hear, oh, it's 9 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock.
no.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean. I just don't want to.
Okay. In any case,
The board meeting went to 10, we were there for the board.
Yep.
The board meeting
And
got
we've-
off started sticking out of it since 20, we were, we're paying big bucks to make this.
And I agree, and that's why I said we suggested maybe we do it
We've been here
5:30,
till 11,
start.
11:30 before.
And we've done lots of
We're
late
not at our
meetings.
best then, but we've been here.
Yeah. Well, this far in advance, I could do it during the day.
Sure. Yeah, so I got advance, I'm fine too, with all of I know in advance.
We can
Then,
Do it at 1.
okay, I will make a note of that and then I'll be in contact with each of you tomorrow.
Great, alrighty, so
Do you want our closed session?
no more closed session. So that was,
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
now we are on to that. So just some clarification, that was tabled and workshop and then bring back to the next council meeting, correct, is what we're
For
still,
decision.
for decision. So now we're off to city manager staff reports.
Yes, thank you, members of the Yreka City Council. Jason Ledbetter, your city manager. So here's my brief rundown of what's transpired for me since the last meeting. So I had my monthly regional city manager Zoom meeting on 8/11. We're looking at doing in-person quarterlies where I was able to recap the McKinney fire for the group of city managers regionally and had a nice conversation about hazard mitigation and engaging, pardon me, engaging Cal OES and just the evacuation that took place here. I was also invited by a member of the public to attend the Republican Central Committee meeting on 8/11 in Montague, where Doug LaMalfa was the speaker. And I'm glad I went because I was able to meet and connect with Aaron Ryan, who is his district representative. And when invited by anyone in this community, I will be there. So if anyone else wants to invite me in anything, feel free. On 8/3/22, I was notified via email by the North Siskiyou Chamber that they would not be submitting to put on the 2022 Night of Lights nor the 2023 Gold Rush Days event. Leading up to that email, we were in discussion with the executive director of the chamber, and it appeared as though she would be submitting a scope of work for both of those events. And so I wanted to bring that to the council's attention because I do believe that some events that take place in the city of Yreka really are city events, even though maybe they haven't been treated as city events. And I think these two events are kind of cornerstone events for the city. And so looking for direction to possibly agendize what are city events.
Thank you for bringing that up, because yes, I think that's something we need to put on the agenda on how we're gonna move forward, especially with the two main events, which would be Gold Rush Days, Night of Lights, parade. I don't know where we're at with the parade, so those sort of things.
Nowhere.
Uh, Nowhere, yeah, exactly. So I think it's something, as long as the council's okay with that, we bring it back and talk.
How much money did we give to whoever last year to run Night of Lights and to run the parade or whatever?
5,000.
5,000 event.
I could verify that. I know Gold Rush is the classic 5,000. I feel like I've only heard, I'd have to look, but I feel like I heard 2,000 possibly for lights, but I'm not sure. But we can bring that information back now that you've directed me to agendize it. We will bring it on to the next meeting and we'll have that info and then get a better understanding of what the city council wants to do as far as what they consider city events. And then how we can appropriate money to those events and pull them off if we decide to do them internally. So
Because Debbie said she'd do all, she said.
Well,
Debbie did not say that.
And
She's gonna
if you talk about Gold Days also, or Gold Rush Days.
Gold Rush Days, yeah.
If we're going to do Gold Rush Days and we want to have single action shooting society, they have to be notified 8 months in advance. They want a minimum of 8 months notice. Wow. So that gives us 60 days.
Wow.
yeah, and you raise a good point for the future discussion because pulling off events, as anyone that's been on the chamber knows, it's a lot more time intensive than I think people realize. So
Yeah.
and I just wanted to kind of go down the rabbit hole of news and the nexus to my own personal beliefs here. But, I think there's three major issues facing the Western states at the moment, and that's fire danger, that's water security, and it's also housing. And so housing being development, developing new housing and seeking solutions to the homeless crisis, I also bundle into housing as a whole. So it's really almost 4 topics. And we're doing a number of things to address those here internally. And we just experienced, obviously, the McKinney fire, and we see how things can quickly escalate. And so we're working with the Fire Safe Council to determine the best grant to apply for to mitigate grass fire risks from the south, north, and the east. I think we've had in the past, she's no longer here, but Miss Bacigalupi had pointed out her concern over the fire danger over on where the repeater's located up on the hill on the east side of town. We have a grant to increase the capacity of water storage by 700,000 gallons and to update one of our emergency wells. I know you guys are very familiar with that. We're actively working on a scope of work with Pace Engineering to apply for a future grant to place an emergency filter at the Greenhorn Reservoir. And we have discussed the need for improvements in our fire department with a new fire hall, which we're actively working there. And we're actively working with the fire chief to determine the needs in the fire department in order to present the possibility of some alterations with a possible revenue source in the future. But what we seem to be missing here is a plan for housing. And this is segueing into on 8/30, the housing element review that you guys will be taking a look at. I just want to remind everybody that within that housing element draft, there's a statement in there that says the median income to own a house in the city of Yreka, to purchase a house, is $110,000 annually. Why am I mentioning any of this? You know, what's the point of this, Jason? So you're going to see the housing element on 8/30, but I just want you guys to understand this is a very, very interesting time in the United States, let alone in the state of California. And I want you to be aware that there is money and funding available to subsidize 50% all the way up to 100% of development of housing in the city of Yreka. And the city's responsibility would only be staff time to basically RFP out a proposal with property we own, maybe it's property we do not own, where we take no financial risk or liability. We take no ownership of anything that is built. We are basically just in support of somebody, either us or a developer, such as the developer that is currently doing Crossroads, to come in here and build housing units. If that is something that the council is interested in, I just want you to know that as you go through the review on 8/30, that is an option for you, and that certain instances or certain key things are being set up. And we hope to have Miss Lucchese show you kind of the roadmap on why we would be setting design standards, why we would be seeking an ordinance for design standards, because then if we were to move forward with one of these projects, we can ensure that the standard is up to snuff and we don't get a developer in here who just turns and burns some very poor construction and leaves town. So just please keep that in the back of your head, because this is the first time I am aware of that you can control development in your own city and you can address housing. We heard tonight from some folks, I think it was the gentleman from the Methodist Church, and there is a correlation here between homelessness and not having housing. And so if you are interested in it, please be aware that it exists, and please press your planning director to find out more information on the 30th if you so wish. Thank you.
It's interesting. Yeah. Real interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. Enjoy we can get ahead of it. Any other staff have some reports? I know Chief has something good he wants to tell us.
Oh, that's right.
Or at a personal level. He's a grandpa.
Are you a grandpa? Congratulations.
Yeah, but you were up all night.
You're gonna take, take all the credit from Chris.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Do you mind telling her name?
little baby granddaughter named Avery Mae Gilman, and she's only a few days old.
I love it.
Congratulations.
I know.
Congratulations.
I love the name. I was like, oh, man.
He's gonna have his hands full in about 16 years.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Right, we'll move on then to councilman's reports. Mr. McCoy?
I'll try and keep it quick. I want to, it's exciting to watch, this, service station go into the far end of town. They're getting ready to do stuff down there.
Yeah.
SB James has got the bid and I'm excited.
Oh,
I
SB
see-
James got it? Cool.
Yes, and I see they actually have a guy that they hired out of Bend, but he's been gone for 30 years. He's from Edna. He's a local boy.
Oh,
And,
right on.
and so he's back now, and it's really exciting. SBJ doing the liquor store and.
Oh, yes,
And
yes.
the,
Gas station. all
gas
that.
station, all that. Okay. And I know that the fellow that owns that place has more planned. He'd like to do more down there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's pretty
That
cool.
end of town needs it.
Yeah.
It's pretty, yes. And it's nice to see Arby's, and somebody said it was probably gonna be going up real soon, and I know that, the John Richter and his, money from Vegas, they're getting close to opening.
Yeah.
Because I saw them working ground. I want to thank, Joan for continuing to work on the pool diligently. I appreciate that. I know that you continue to keep that on the front burner, and that's something that I think all of us want to do.
Mhm,
Yes.
For
absolutely.
the city. If
I'm
it
not
takes us
gonna
10
forget
years,
it. I don't care if I
if it
do or
takes us
not.
10 years, we'll
I
get.
will haunt you.
Yeah. And, you know, we get it ringy, that's great. So thank you, Joe. I had the occasion 3 times to go up to No Place Like Home. And I was thinking it was this huge development. It's a very small footprint. Very small amount of land up there to put 50 units on. I thought it would be over, you know, I thought it would be like huge and taken up. I mean, if you go up there and look, the footprint's very, very small. So I know it's 2 stories probably, but so, I was happy to see that the Siskiyou Credit Union and Yreka Motors, each gave $5,000, making a $10,000 donation to the Klamath Fire Department. Klamath Fire Department escaped with just what they could drive out. Everything else was burned to the ground. All their generators, all the stuff that they would normally carry. So it was nice to see that. I will say this, the Siskiyou Credit Union also has set up a McKinney Fire Victim account. There probably are others set up within the city, but if you know anybody that wants to give $5, $10, they can go in and give it. And then what'll happen is after OES and everybody's kind of settled down and people have gotten like to go up here to the rural health sciences and sign up for things. Then they'll, and it starts to build, then they're going to be handing out, you know, giving it out. And I do want to thank the U.S. Forest Service, and I want to thank Phil Anzo and CAL FIRE. I don't think, honestly, I think that probably, I've only had about 2 or 3 complaints from people on fire lines, going across their property and stuff like that. But I don't think we could have gotten these fire lines done for probably, it would have been $1 to $2 million to have somebody come in and do it. And we would have never been able to afford it.
No, I agree. In fact, are you, can I add on or add
You
something?
can, I'm done, yeah. So you can add on.
Well, just in conjunction, because I was gonna bring it up since you brought that up, the fire lines. How does the council feel about us bringing that back up and discussing that on future? How we can possibly either write a letter or show our support that we want to retain these fire lines that CAL FIRE has punched in very nicely for us.
Pardon me.
Throw something.
I do, I've already had conversations with Jay Perkins and George Jennings of the Yreka Fire Safe Council and Phil Anzo and Daryl Laws. And so we are actively through the Yreka Fire Safe Council, working with CAL FIRE and going to pressure the U.S. Forest Service, even though I believe the Forest Service maybe 5 years ago, when they put fire lines in, they then immediately did a restoration project.
That's my concern.
And now they've changed their philosophy
Oh.
where it's just soil erosion control project. And so I can certainly bring some type of letter of support for that. And then I think that the Fire Safe Council is making that their primary goal is to maintain these lines. Because I do agree with Councilmember McCoy. This would have taken 10 years to get the environmental done on the grant side with all private, public lands and maintaining these. It's the silver lining of this whole fire.
That's great. They did a great job punching the lines in too. They did water bars every like 20 feet and stuff. And they did a great job. I think I showed pictures to a lot of you guys of the little escapade up above my house and how it looked and stuff. So it was pretty cool. So anyways, thank you. Mr. Middleton.
I'll just keep it short. Just, yeah, it's kind of a sense of peace for everybody back in their homes. And I've spent a few minutes one night at the police department dropping off some food for them. So hopefully they ate it all. I took a lot. I didn't realize it was that much, but met some great officers. She was really funny. The officer from Elk Grove, she was really nice. She was bubbly personality and cute. And yeah, so I got to talk to them and they loved our area and they were excited to be here. They weren't complaining. You can tell she'd never been here. They stopped in Mount Shasta, they said, and they said, "Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful country, even with the fire, and we're so excited to help you." They were so nice and talking to them, and so it was nice to have the other agencies here, and they just seemed to be really, jumping in to help out, not complaining. They were excited to be here, and yeah, she was nice. And I wish we had some female officers. I wish they apply for us, because I'm like, gosh, you see these agencies and they're coming up with their female officers and we don't have one. And I'm like, except for our code enforcement officer, which does a great job. But yeah, so it's kind of nice to see a kind of a sense of peace back in town. Those scary times for everybody. Yeah, it's busy around town. It's like our traffic's beginning, but yeah, school started back up. We're gonna get a different season here pretty soon. The year is going by fast, and I'm just gonna keep it at that. So I'll pass.
Thank you.
On to somebody else.
Oh, well, also, we're so appreciative for the fire department and for our police department. I know you guys were working hard too. I know, one of your officers came down my street with his microphone on. "You're being evacuated." And so I was evacuated at the last meeting, so that's why I attended on here. I tried to go to Mount Shasta, but they wanted $300 and $400 a night per room, so I ended up in Chico for a more reasonable, yeah. Anyway, as Councilmember McCoy said, we have had pool meetings. We are still talking about things that we may be able to do, talking to our legislators, talking to the people at the state, and who knows what may happen, but it's actually looking pretty good. So I'm encouraged. Let's put it that way. We're not there yet, but I think we're going in the right direction. Also, I attended the Northern California Division meeting. It was over at Lake Tahoe. And fortunately, those rooms were expensive too, but we have a local citizen that lives over there in the summertime with Everest. And they put me up. I offered to pay for a room, but they were so kind. Anyway, so that meeting was interesting because a lot of the things you just talked about were the topics. They had a speaker there that was talking about fire. As you drove into Lake Tahoe, you saw that horrible fire that hit them last year. And they're still recovering from that. And they're working on the erosion you were talking about, stopping the erosion because, it's pretty steep over there. Homelessness was also an issue over there, and there's a lot of funding. One of the things that we talked about, and I was able to, since I sit on the League of California City State Board, I had the budget that was just signed at the time by the governor. And there's a lot of money out there for homelessness, for housing. Housing is a really big issue through the state to get people out of homelessness. And the other one, of course, that was the item of discussion, and they had the guy that's the head of the state water, not Resource Control Board, it's the private water agency. Trying to think of his name. Anyway, he gave a really nice presentation about water, the severe drought, and how it's impacting the entire state of California. It's not just us, probably impacting us more than we would like, but not as much as many places in the rest of the state. So there's a lot of work being done on water issues as well as on fire. So there is a lot of funding out there. I've shared some of it. with our city manager, and I've got that whole budget list if any of you want to see it. But there's a lot of money for rural California out there. So, and our League of California Cities was at the Capitol every single day, talking to the legislators there about the importance. And one of the things I know that's been discussed for a long time, and I told our fire chief this, is that if there is a way to help fund rural fire departments, because, you know, it's, as we know, it's a challenge, you know, it would be very difficult for us to have a fully paid fire department unless we got help from the state. And so we talked about that a great deal as well. So there's a lot of exciting things going on. And I think, as all of you know, I did not sign up to run for city council again. I've been on 2 terms, 8 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it most of the time. And I feel like we've accomplished a lot. Debbie and I have been on the same length of time. And I think we have a ways to go. But as I said, I'm not going to quit working on certain things. And I'm still going to be around. And but I'm just going to, I think it's time for somebody else. I did 2 terms on the Board of Supervisors, 2 terms on City Council, and now I'm going to retire.
I'm sure.
I will still be busy.
I'm sure Gary will like you around too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he'll be like, wow, I like this.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's all for now. Yeah, the next, yeah, I'll let you know when the next division meeting is. There'll be an in-person, but Corey and I are going to be going as the delegate and as the alternate to the League of California Cities, Cal Cities annual conference, which is going to be in Long Beach.
Nice.
And so we're going to get together and go over what it is that we have to vote on, and then we'll bring it to all of you, and then we can discuss, you know, how you think that we should vote.
Good.
And it looks like it's going to be a really good conference with a lot of good information. I know Debbie's been to it before too.
A lot of them with the planning commission and.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. You learn a lot because you learn what other cities are doing with similar issues as we have. So, and learn about solutions. So hope to bring all that good information.
Yes. Thank you. Gary?
And everybody knows I'm not running again. I wanted to say a special thank you to Jason. I'm still getting compliments on how you handled the city's business during fire. So thank you.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Time you spent.
Yeah.
My goodness.
A lot. And thank you.
Well, I just want, the legend back there in the
Yeah.
back of the room.
No
The
kid.
legend, the man, the legend,
rock.
the chief. Yeah.
Grandpa.
Best title ever.
Uh-huh.
But I would like to suggest, I spoke to Dwayne about it, when we are at our final meeting, to invite Norm to go out
Yes.
for hors d'oeuvres
Oh, yeah,
and
'cause
drinks
we did get-
afterwards.
We never
Yeah.
gave him
Yeah.
a going away party because of COVID.
COVID. Yeah.
So,
2 years
if that
later.
works for everybody,
No, sad.
I'll go for dessert, but you guys can have drinks, whatever. And nothing else.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. We talked about the fire alliance I was on. I had a point in time with 7 counties in the North State this morning, a meeting on in conjunction to that. So we started our discussion on how to move forward on the forums and the app and all that stuff, which all those about those, you have to play around with those. And we talked about our supplemental forms, so I'm sending that to the team. So they can look at our supplemental forms and see if there's something we can use for point in time for all the 7 counties in the North State. So they're really interested in that. Yeah. No, I do too. So one of the things we're gonna be bringing back to the meeting, to the COC meeting, is how we're structuring the point in time count locally in Sister County. That's Sister County. So, yeah, we're gonna be, as me as a chair and, Madeline Bryan was here earlier as co-chair. as far as that goes. We're gonna separate each area, so we're gonna designate each area to have somebody running it, so then I just
Good.
oversee it instead of me
Much
running
better.
the whole thing like I did last year, so. We got this week, groundbreaking ceremony that's gonna be happening on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. Expansion for the Crew Tribe and moving forward with that, I think it'll be good for the Yreka area overall view, what they're gonna be doing. I don't know if everybody followed, I was hoping that Corey was gonna catch on this one, the fair auction. I don't know if you had a chance to follow it. a
Oh,
little
the
bit.
livestock auction.
The
yeah.
livestock auction was amazing. We followed this the second day, the Sunday, 'cause we were gonna bid on a hog and it went so high, I'm like, I can't afford this. But the big story was though, Miles. Yeah, they, from over the valley, Smiles by Miles, Miles, I think everybody's seen that over there from the valley. They had the big one for him and the culmination, of CLT, which I don't know if I'll say who that is, but CLT, logging, they bought the first hog and then donated it back. And then they sold it again, they sold it 3 times that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Finley Farms, but
last time. yeah.
12 grand.
And I heard that.
Oh, CLT bought it for almost 26 grand.
So
But
he got 30.
I heard that the young man was going to donate, was it $10,000?
25%, they ended up doing.
To the Sante, yeah.
To the son.
Yeah,
Oh,
he entered-
yeah.
sweet.
He's
Yeah,
got
he
so
was
much
the
of
kid
it,
that
yeah.
had cancer. brain cancer.
It was pretty amazing, that auction. Following
Yeah, you're related somehow, right?
Yeah, through marriage, yeah, so, very incredible kid, I mean, quite honestly, just a very special kid.
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say about
I'm sorry,
No, that's
I knew a little bit.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool, the whole auction thing, to see how much money that was, these kids were getting and stuff. It's awesome. It was really good, really good. I didn't hear the total, so maybe that's something you can bring back to us on.
We'll find out.
Yeah, you can bring that
Because we
back
are-
to the council. on
We
how
were
much
friends at
was
a fair
raised.
meeting and Cliff goes, update, so hope I update us on how it went.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he
He did a good job of auction.
Yeah, he gives a
Oh,
report.
did he?
Auction.
Oh.
He didn't do an auctioneer, he just gave speeches and stuff, but it was awesome. Yeah, they brought in, Glenn, I guess, Lizardo, yeah, to do, board
Oh, Glenn.
miles.
Yeah.
So
He's
it
an
was pretty
auctioneer. He's a good one.
Yeah, pretty cool to have the locals and everybody supporting the fair, even though we didn't have it, at least they supported the kids and stuff, so it's awesome to see. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of numbers that brought in and what kind of numbers is gonna be brought in for the fair period from the Cal Fire and everybody, so I'm sure it'll be doing pretty good.
Sure they're
share-wise.
there.
Yeah, in the fair, yeah. Only people that unfortunately would lose out are the people that had booths and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the nonprofits were worried.
Yeah. We had,
Yeah, Elks are really
Yeah. We're
yeah,
worried.
nonprofits.
We're worried not having our beer booth. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that hurts on them. big
Hurts on
time.
everybody who counts on. Oh.
Friday, Saturday, get like a wide self-pick, so beer.
Like that, like a food truck, yeah, like a event, yeah.
Hamburgers, everything.
True.
So I'll be looking forward to that. Other than that, I don't know if we did we get any more recent updates on the shopping cart ordinance? I still see that, I know there was some discussion on that, but I don't know if we had anything, maybe next time or something, we can.
I can do another update with the
See how
lieutenant.
it's going. I don't know how it's going. I know that there's obviously up a lot by COS still parked there with the trash situation, and that's something I'll have a further discussion with you on. I know we lost our dumpster up there, so.
We lost our dumpster.
No, we didn't lose it. It's just been,
Somebody carted it off.
and if they can cart that off, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a semi truck dumpster, so. But anyways, I guess that's it. Meeting adjourned.
Hallelujah. Thank you. Only 10:51. 9:51. Oh, I thought it was 10:50. Oh, my gosh. I don't know about